Oh, is it good to be back? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wargames Podcast number 31. Yeah, said it is good indeed to be back after internet outages, and then, as many of you know, the accident on Friday. Yeah, had a little bit of time away. I was able to come back Sunday and do the stream for Task Force Bravo. For a lot of you found out what was going on if you hadn't already, thanks to Discord. And also did a Pillars of Eternity stream on Monday, which I'm watching now. So yeah, for I guess anybody that wasn't in Discord or wasn't here Sunday to hear what exactly happened, was involved in a car accident Friday. Got pretty up. Feeling quite a bit better now. It's a lot talk now than what it was on Sunday. Even though I went on a bit of a rant right before we went live and caused myself a little pains. I got that going for me. But yeah, I know everybody was wondering what the hell I was, and received a lot of well wishes stuff from everyone upon hearing what had happened and everything, and came home to a fuck ton of messages from everybody, well wishes, wanting to know I was okay and all of that. So yeah, I'm alive, just a little banged up. So before we get into anything as far as story goes, or as far as news stories go that I have this week, the first thing I want to talk about is Pillars of Eternity, as it is something I've been playing quite a bit. I played all the way through it last week while the internet was out until Friday, obviously, before I decided to bounce my noggin off a dump truck and break my arm. So first I want to ask you guys, have any of you guys played it? Which, by the way, Munson, Patty, and Loster are in here with me tonight. So have any of you guys played it?
Ayo.
What's up?
What's up is I want to know if you motherfuckers have played Pillars of Eternity too.
No.
Negativo.
So, okay, so none of you guys have played. Were any of you guys interested in it?
I don't even know what it is.
No, it's an RPG, so no.
It's an awesome
I was watching you play it. I was watching you play it a little bit last week. It looks cool. I've got like 5 RPGs that I haven't touched in a long time. But what makes this like kind of stand out to you? What made you want to pick it up?
Well, it's kind of the same as the first one in terms of why I wanted to grab it was just the story of it. It's hugely detailed, very intricate. It's very much so like Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale and stuff, which we expected considering it's the same people that made it, or a lot of the same people made it. So it's very, very in depth, and choices really do matter in terms of not just pissing people off, but who you're gonna end up fighting, what quests you end up being able to do, stuff like that. It is very dialogue heavy, and very heavy on reading. You have to do a lot of the reading yourself. It's not all narrated. In fact, the vast majority of it is not narrated. You have to narrate yourself, which can be a little difficult when you have 3 cracked ribs and you're trying to talk aloud. But it's just so in depth, and you don't see a lot of games anymore with that much story and that much background to it. And on top of that, the character creation, the different classes that are available. It's got your typical, fighter or tank or whatever. Paladins, wizards, rogues, rangers, different things along those lines, druids and stuff like that. But it also has subclasses. So each one of those classes has 3 different subclasses that you can choose out from. But there's also multi-class where you can be a fighter rogue that's called like a swashbuckler or something. But doing multi-class, you lose access to the top tier abilities from those classes. So you get, a blend of the two, but you don't get the really good shit from both of them. So it's a really interesting dynamic of being able to, do different classes in the same character. So I obviously very much so enjoyed it. I already played through it once. I'm on my second playthrough of it now. You guys have been seeing it on Drum's channel a lot. He just finished up playing it last night. We've spent quite a bit of time talking about it. So I just real quickly wanted to go over and give you guys my opinion of it. I highly recommend it. If you're into this style of very, very in-depth RPG, I definitely recommend it. Well worth the price for. I do recommend only buying the basic version. The upgraded versions or whatever really don't offer anything that's going to change the game or anything like that. But just grab the basic version. I think it's $49.99 and well worth fucking scratch that you're going to spend on it.
Sweet.
So that being said, that's kind of my final verdict on that, I guess, is if you like in-depth RPGs, fucking buy it. So what I want to get into as far as the news stories this week, first one I wanted to go over, because this is something that I know Loster is going to have an opinion on because he has played this game, and that is Radical Heights.
Radical Heights. Yeah.
So the developer of Radical Heights is Boss Key Productions, who is also the developer on Lawbreakers, which didn't fare too well. It had a lot of acclaim. A lot of people enjoyed it. They said it was a good game. It just didn't gain any traction. It didn't get many players at all. At launch, it peaked a little bit, and then it immediately died off, despite the amount of coverage that it had, the amount of people that were saying that it's very good, and so on. So it died off fairly quickly. And yes, the single player campaign in Pillars is quite long. I would say 30 plus hours easily. That's just, that's not doing every single little side quest. So as I said, the release of Lawbreakers didn't do great, but it was pretty well critically acclaimed. But because of the pseudo failure of Lawbreakers, Boss Key immediately went into work on Radical Heights. And after 5 months of development on it, they released it in early access on Steam. And it peaked at number 32 on Steam's top played games at almost 8,500 players. And there was a lot of streamers and stuff, playing the game and hopping on board, as you would expect, because I'm sure pretty much every single one of them got the game for free and said, hey, please play this game on your stream.
Well, it's free anyways.
Well, yeah, duh, it is free. Well, either way, there was a lot of streamers that hopped on, and it was very, very popular the day it was released. I think it was the top game on Twitch, top watched game on Twitch the day it was released. So that was released, and Lawbreakers, which by that point had already dropped to like single-digit players. And now it seemed after release that Radical Heights was kind of following the same path. Initial release was huge, and then player count immediately dropped way off. So the data on this, as far as the player counts, is coming from GetHype, who's pretty credible. And they said in their release that most Battle Royale games see a week-by-week increase in players, not a decrease, increase in players. As where Radical Heights has seen an 82% decrease in player numbers, with a population as low as 2,200 current players. Again, down from 8,500 players. So concurrent player base dropped very, very quickly. And a quote from their analysis says, after tracking the player counts for new releases and early access games the past couple years on GetHype, we've seen that the key to successful Battle Royale games has been enticing players to jump ship from other Battle Royale games. In its second week of early access on Steam, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds had already doubled its launch day peak of 39,000 players by stealing players away from H1Z1 King of the Kill. Fortnite recently has become the most popular Battle Royale game by doing the same thing. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Sadly, this doesn't look like Radical Heights has managed to convert any Battle Royale players for longer than a day. Radical Heights looks like another flop for Boss Key Productions. So, while this may have sounded like horrible news for Boss Key, I personally didn't think it was nearly as bad as it sounded. You have to keep in mind this is an early access game, so they were still developing the game. Any money that they were getting from early access sales is basically icing on the cake, allowing them to further develop the game beyond what they initially were going to do. So, could the initial impressions hurt them when the game is finally released? Yeah, absolutely. But do they now have a better idea of what needs to be done to make the game successful? Yeah. I mean, this is the point of early access. Is they put this game out there very early, get feedback from it, and are able to build upon it. So I was hoping they would take that feedback and introduce something new to the Battle Royale genre. I personally, I'm not a fan of Battle Royale games, but if they could have taken the feedback from the community and made something better out of it, then I'm all for it. Just because I don't like a certain style of game doesn't mean I don't want them to exist. However, that doesn't seem to be what's gonna happen. So, Cliff Basinski, the president of Boss Key Productions, stated via Twitter, as of today, Boss Key Productions is effectively no more. 4 years ago, I set out to make a world-class video game studio and hired some of the best talent in the video game industry. They worked tirelessly to produce quality product, and while we had our ups and downs, I'd like to think we had fun doing it. Lawbreakers was a great game that unfortunately failed to gain traction. And in a last-ditch attempt, we scrambled to do our take on the huge Battle Royale genre with Radical Heights, which was well received, however, it was too little too late. So, looking at that statement, first and foremost, he's shutting down Boss Key Productions. Studio is no more. So, he's had 2 games flop, threw in the towel and said, that's it, we're done. Closed it. Said, we've had our ups and downs, like to think we had fun doing it, which is obviously, something you'd like to hope is that, the people that worked for you had a good time doing the job. But he says, Lawbreakers was a great game that unfortunately failed to gain traction, which is true. A lot of people, again, like I said the game was very good. It just didn't get the players that they needed. And in a last-ditch attempt, scrambled to do our take on the huge Battle Royale genre with Radical Heights. That is where the problem was. And from what I've seen as far as reviews of Radical Heights, that was very much so the problem, was that everybody said it was way too rushed, didn't have the content that it needed to compete with the other games already in the genre. And after only developing it for 5 months, and him admitting that, they scrambled to do something with a Battle Royale because it's huge and successful, to me, that just looks like, so your game failed, so you immediately went to the well that everybody's drawn out of and thought you were going to be successful. That's just idiocy, in my opinion. So it seems though that we weren't the only ones to be surprised by this announcement. Ron LaJoy, one of the lead producers for Radical Heights, was actually answering questions on Twitter about playable female characters and other features that people were asking about in the game. He was active on Twitter answering these questions when the news broke that Boss Key was being shut down, to which he immediately put on Twitter, well, scratch that, no female ever. And his Twitter bio now says, unemployed game developer, please send booze. LaJoy then later tweeted that feeling when your 10-year-old daughter sends a screenshot of the press release about your studio shutting down and asking if everything is okay. And then went on to further add, even better, this is pretty norm for the games industry. So it seems as though one of the lead producers of this game wasn't aware of what was about to go down. You know, he found out secondhand that he's now unemployed, which is pretty fucking shitty. And then on top of that, to hear that this is normal for the game industry, which I don't know if that's necessarily true. But it should be noted that Boss Key Productions was built from many of the former employees of Epic Games, who are the makers of Fortnite. Cliff Basinski being one of them, and also the co-founder. They both came from Epic Games, who made Fortnite, and a bunch of other employees that went to Boss Key came from Epic Games. Now, some of those employees have already returned to Epic Games, including Boss Key co-founder who returned to Epic Games back in December. So obviously I have to go to you first, Loster, since you're the one that's played this game. I mean, firstly, what are your thoughts on the game? Secondly, what are your thoughts on Boss Key just basically out of nowhere shutting down and really not even informing the staff ahead of time?
Hold on, my daughter's struggling with her Velcro sneaker. All right. Anyways, first things first. I liked Radical Heights. I mean, I still do quite a bit. As someone who has, I started with I am a fan of the battle royale genre. I like it. I think it's pretty fun. I guess I started with H1Z1, and then I played that for a little bit. Wasn't a fan. PUBG, a lot of PUBG. I tried Fortnite. Didn't really cartoony, but Radical Heights was kind of unique in the sense that it was like it had like the combat of H1Z1 with the casual like cartoony nature of Fortnite without the construction.
Right.
Like it didn't have this realistic bullet drop physics like PUBG has. It wasn't hinging itself on its real. It was like Running Man basically. It was like this like goofy version of Running Man.
Right, which is fitting considering one of the developers in some of the stories I was reading, one of the lead devs, or I think it was the creative designer, said that that's what he was basing kind of the stylization of the game on, was Running Man.
Yeah, and it fits it. It's like tight. It's like spandex, big hair, 80s music. Like there's like there's BMXs in the game. They're all like brightly colored. Like there's really nothing like serious or dull in the game as far as aesthetically. And to me it did. To me, it's like they're every game that comes out tries to you take the original idea and then like put a twist on it. Okay, so I'm sorry. So Radical Heights is like, okay, well, how can we take Battle Royale and put a twist on it that's going to make people want to play it? Okay, well, for one, it's not like H1Z1, it's not like Fortnite, it's not like PUBG. There's no parachutes. Like literally, you're in a dome and you're in the lobby for 60 seconds, and you hear 3, 2, 1, and it just kicks you out, and you're just falling from the sky. Like there's no fall damage. You hit the ground in like 5 seconds. So that's one less thing you have to worry about. You don't have to aim your parachute. It doesn't take you 2 minutes to get to the ground. Second thing is there's no vehicles, but there's bikes. So everyone's like cruising around on BMX bikes, and when you do duos, you can ride on the pegs and ride on your partner's shoulders, and it's funny, and like you can do like flips and tricks and spins and all that stuff while you're in the air. It's just like this cool little distraction and a faster way to get around. Um, the weapons are tiered like they are in Fortnite, as in they're tiered in the sense that you got your commons, your greens, your blues, your purples, your and then your yellows, which are the best. Um, that doesn't affect damage output, but it affects attachments, magazine capacity, whether or not the weapon has a suppressor, stuff like that. And what was cool about Radical Heights, what was unique about it, was that yes, when you hit the ground, you can start looting and looking for shit. However, there was currency in the game. You had a wallet, and you would find money strewn about the map, or you would find ATMs where you could store your money for another game. And the money was used because there's vending machines in the game that had loot in them, that would have golden yellow weapons, that would have armor, that would have helmets, that would have additional weapon slots that you could purchase for $200, $300. The more rare items were like $1,000, $2,000. But that was cool. It was its own thing where you're not simply relying on loot that you may or may not find on the ground, or that you might get off of a dead player. So if you hit the ground and you don't find shit, but you find an ATM and a vending machine, you still have a chance of living.
Provided you find money.
Yeah, or you can just, I mean, money is inconsequential in that game. After you play for like 2 hours, you'll have like 10 grand in the bank. And at that point, money becomes, it's whatever. It's like end game money in World of Warcraft. It's like having gold at that point in World of Warcraft. Like whatever, I have fucking unlimited at this point, so whatever. um, but yeah, those are all the things that I thought were really cool about it. I thought it was a unique approach to that genre. However, the game was very, very, very early access. You could tell that immediately. But they were making it. It surprises me.
Well, because they were still working on it.
They
Like I
were
said,
patching it.
the lead producer was answering questions about things that they were going to be adding to the game and what they were currently working on when he got the news about the studio being shut down.
Sure.
So that is very surprising that, he's telling these people, yeah, this is what we're working on, this is what we're going to do, and
Yep.
then gets the news, studio shut down.
Yeah, whoever the PR person for Radical Heights was doing a good job, because we meaning the fan base, were informed. We knew what was coming. We knew when patches were coming out. We knew what was going to be in the patches before they even came out. And then they released the patches when they said they would, and the game, that content was added. Once or twice when they released the patch, it did break the game further. However, they had that fixed in like an hour. Like, oh shit, we didn't anticipate this. We'll fix it, and then they fixed it.
My theory is this, and I want to know if you agree, is while it did slightly twist what the general take on battle royale, style of games are, I don't think that it twisted it enough. It didn't do enough to make it unique in comparison to anything else. It basically, it took a different color scheme, very closely resembling Fortnite,
Yes.
and put it into the game, and it just, even though it added something like the ATMs, like you said, in the end, the money doesn't matter, because after a few hours you have enough to buy whatever the fuck you want anyways, so it really makes it a moot point. So even that new feature that they brought to this genre really didn't make that huge of an impact, because everybody has very easy access to it anyways, so it doesn't really change the gameplay mechanic all that much, aside from you don't have to go loot, you can just buy the stuff.
If you get lucky enough to find it. But yeah, because
Right.
the vending machines only had one item in them, so that's it.
But that's my theory, though, is that they didn't bring enough change. They didn't change the game enough to make it unique and make it interesting to other players. So you agree with that?
Well, absolutely. And I think that was it Bosky? Is that the name of the studio? The developer. They're 0 for 2 in the sense that they jumped on the wagon too late. There's nothing wrong with
twice.
There's nothing wrong with mimicking success. I mean, as long as you put your own like twist on it that makes it yours and makes it unique, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because there's a billion first-person shooters out there, but every once in a while one comes along that's like Prey is an example. That game was different, not the older one, the most recent one.
Yeah, the kind of remake. Well, and that's the thing is, with their initial game of Lawbreakers, it wasn't hopping on the bandwagon because, yes, Overwatch, insanely popular arena-esque style shooter. But you have to keep in mind, Cliff Bleszinski worked on, oh Christ, now I can't remember the name of it. Big arena shooter back in the day.
Quake.
Yeah, Quake. He worked on Quake Arena. Like he was there for the biggest arena shooter of all time. Well, not now, thanks to Overwatch, but that's kind of his bread and butter, really, when you think about it. So it wasn't when Lawbreakers was announced, it wasn't a huge surprise. A lot of people weren't saying, "Oh, well, he's just doing it because of the success of Overwatch." He's doing it because that's what he knows. That's the greatest game he's ever made. That's what people know him for. So it makes sense that he would make an arena style shooter.
Right.
Which again is why it was very well received. A lot of people said it was a very good game. But at the same time, you're going up against the biggest game company on the planet as competition. It's very rough ground to sow, and it didn't work out for them. And now, on their second attempt, they go up against the biggest game out there right now, which is Fortnite, his previous employer, and fails because they just don't bring enough uniqueness to the game. And that, I think, is why, to me, it's so upsetting that they decide to just, scuttle the ship and say, we're done.
Right.
It's understandable. Obviously, they have two failures, and he just wants to call it quits. But it is upsetting in the sense that, he failed twice on basically going up against the biggest, or trying to get into the biggest genre in the world right now, and you failed. Like, you had to go into that prepared for that potential outcome, right? Like, you couldn't just automatically assume, yeah, this is going to be the next biggest game in the world, because nobody can predict that. So, do you think that they made the right call shutting down the studio?
Definitely.
So you think
Yeah.
so? You think it was the right idea to just shut it down?
With numbers that low, yeah. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Like what I was trying to say, like what I was saying was that when they made Lawbreakers, it was like Lawbreakers was basically like their twist on like the Call of Duty, like the future stuff, the future
Mhm.
soldier stuff with the wall riding and the the whatever, the fucking
Yeah, a
grappling
lot of
hook
people
shit.
compared it to Titanfall, but without the mechs.
Titanfall, another one, which is the same thing. Like
Mhm.
Titanfall with the sprinting, the wall running, the jump, the leaps and bounds in the air, all that shit. Like that, they're too late. Like, and and that's a genre that people really don't want, because if they did, we'd have Titanfall 3 and it'd be huge. Like Titanfall 2 by rights is a fantastic game, and it should be more popular than it is, but it isn't, because we just don't want that. Apparently, the market just doesn't want that kind of game. And then Lawbreakers was an attempt at that, and it failed because we don't want that. I think that Radical Heights is a similar example, but a little bit different in the sense that, okay, PUBG right now has like 1.5 million people playing it. I don't know how many people are playing Fortnite, but I'm sure it's somewhere up there too.
It's more. I mean, even when you take mobile into account, but Fortnite hands down bigger than PUBG on PC and console. Um, and then you take mobile into account. Uh, Fortnite is only on iOS. You can only get it on Apple mobile products. PUBG is on iOS, Android, and Fortnite has more than tripled their earnings, like 1.3 million for PUBG, and it was like 3.6 or 3.8 for Fortnite. So it's more than doubled what PUBG is doing.
For streaming alone right now, Fortnite is sitting at 248,451 viewers, and PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds sitting at 104,044 viewers. So I mean, Fortnite's literally doubled the viewership of PUBG right
It's
now.
because it's kids. That's why it's all
Well,
kids.
the thing is though, it brought something new.
Yeah.
something completely different from anything that you've seen in PUBG. You have the building aspect. It's more cartoony, more fun. Like you said, it attracts more kids to it. And it's something completely different. As we're, like we said with Radical Heights, yeah, the styling of it was a little bit different, but overall, it wasn't as drastically different from Fortnite or PUBG and compared to Fortnite to PUBG. It was basically a very, very different game in the styling and the actual gameplay of it, as to where Radical Heights wasn't that drastically different. And it wasn't so much that the market doesn't want that game. Obviously, they do. They're the two biggest games out there right now. But the market didn't want a half-assed attempt at that style of game,
Right.
which is exactly what Radical Heights was. Even admitting that, they basically scampered to fucking make that happen in 5 months. It tells us, yeah, it was a half-ass attempt.
Yep, you could tell when you played it that obviously it was very early access. You had entire buildings that didn't have wallpaper, that didn't have furniture, that didn't have anything in them. They were just outlines of buildings that were like grid squares. And I was fine with that. I mean, I'm one of those people that's willing to. I can see the bigger picture, and I'm willing to
Right.
wait this out. But I understand that I'm in the minority, and that's fine. Um, and then some games just don't like some games just don't get better. But I saw a lot of potential in Radical Heights.
Daisy.
Like Daisy, I think Rust is another example.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't, or like the player base that it attracts is just awful. Like Rust is a prime example of that. But but yeah, I saw a lot of potential for Radical Heights, and I still like the game. I like the combat. I had a lot of fun with that game. I actually got kills in that game, as opposed to PUBG where I just pray, and usually doesn't work in my favor. Um, but yeah, I just think it was too late going
Yeah, it was
against.
too little, too late.
It's going against the two like powerhouses that you've got no business competing with. Like,
Well, like, I don't even think it's so much that they don't have any business competing with. It's just if you're gonna fucking pull up a seat to that table,
you
you
better
better have one hell of a fucking hand to lay
Yeah.
down. Because
Yeah.
if you don't, it's not gonna happen. And it was the
Right.
same exact thing with Lawbreaker. Yeah, the wall running and stuff is cool, but we've already seen that. We've seen that in Call of Duty. We've seen that in Titanfall. They have elements of that already in fucking Overwatch. If you're gonna step up to the table against fucking Blizzard, you need to have something big that they have never thought of. And it completely changes the game. They didn't have that in any one of these cases. So, anyways, basically to wrap it up, I mean, Radical Heights, I guess, is now done. They did say that the servers are going to stay up for the near future. They didn't give an exact timeline as far as how long the servers are going to stay up, but all development on the game has completely ceased. So the state that the game is currently in, that's going to remain its state until they shut down the servers. So yeah, if you were a fan of Radical Heights, that's it. So as Porky would say, that's all, folks.
That's all, folks. Yeah.
B.
I did want
Yes.
to. I know it's still on topic. I just wanted to also just as a mention. One of the questions I believe that you asked in the beginning when you were talking about all this is is it common for studios to just close their doors and not like tell anybody? I have a feeling that's what happened with whatever team was working on Command and Conquer 4. I'm pretty sure EA just got
Yeah.
like a bad press conference, or like their stocks tanked or some shit like that.
Yeah, and they just
And
closed
they're
the
just like,
doors and said, "Don't
okay,
show up
everyone
tomorrow."
out. Yep. And then I
Um,
believe the same thing also happened with the team that was working on Stalker, like in the past.
And I can, part of the, I guess, kind of one of the bylines that I read, dealing with the story was someone saying that they can understand that thought process of a studio just suddenly, releasing a statement saying, "Hey, we're closed," and not telling the staff because of the problems of leaks and things like that. Because if they were to tell all the staff, obviously there's a very high potential for a disgruntled employee fucking hitting Twitter or whatever and releasing the news before the studio is actually ready to.
Or they could release all the assets,
Right.
you know, just to the internet.
That's
Yeah.
just that's scary
So,
shit though, man. to go
yeah,
to
I mean,
work and
it
wonder-
is. It's
That's not secure at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's understandable for a studio to think like that business wise, but it does make it very difficult. I would think it'd be very difficult to get employees that would be loyal, simply because you're constantly, on top of already being in a high stress environment. And there's been many stories out there about how stressful game development is, and especially towards the end of completing a game and stuff, and working insane hours and stuff, and it just being a very stressful environment.
Yep.
And then on top of that, just knowing that at any point in time, you could show up to work tomorrow and there's a fucking lock on the door saying you're no longer employed. Like, fuck, I could not handle that.
No. Well, LA Noire is a prime example of like how hard people worked on that game, and how like it just threw negative backlash from that game, which is unfortunate because LA Noire is
Yeah, it was a
great game.
cool game.
But everyone was expecting GTA 1940,
Right.
and no one. That's not what that game is. And Team Bondi, there's like reports of there's like employee reports of shitty treatment of working like 12 14 16-hour days and no vacation and just insane amounts of overtime to get this product out, and then the game like didn't do great and then everyone gets fired.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
it was a
like-
lot the same from there was a lot of reports that came out after Mass Effect Andromeda of a lot the same. People just working ridiculous hours, and then the game doesn't do well, and they just halt all fucking further development on it. And everybody's like, dude, like we had DLCs planned, we had all this other stuff that we wanted to do, and it doesn't do great because you guys, at the last minute said, oh, you have, 3 months to finish this after bringing in a new writer because the other one shit the bed. And the guy's like, I need 5 months just to write the story. So yeah, I mean, I guess it very much so is the norm for the game industry, shit like this to happen.
That's some scary shit though, man.
Yeah.
Why anybody would want to go into that is beyond me. Like just to completely insecure job and
I honestly believe to do something like that, to go into developing a game, whether it be, art style, whether it be, actual coding, writing, whatever, I have to believe it's because you're genuinely passionate about it. Because I wouldn't think you could go into it thinking I'm going to be, the next rock star of game development and just make millions upon millions of dollars. Like, you have to go into it, at least initially, being very passionate about that job and knowing how insecure that field is. So, that's where you get guys like, the leads of CD Projekt Red, and now I feel bad that I actually have a story about them in the news here, but the lead or the studio head for the studio that made God of War. We talked about that on the last podcast, that reaction video, him checking the Metacritic score for God of War and just how passionate that guy sounded. But that has to be, that would be my guess, is that you have to be genuinely passionate about it, at least when you start. Granted, things may change later on down the road, as they would anything potentially, but I have to think that's the general reason.
It's like doctors, I guess, or nurses. They ain't doing it for the money. I mean, even though some of them are, but it takes a long fucking time to get there.
Right.
You gotta wade through rivers of shit before you start
Literally.
seeing real money.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
literally.
All right, so next thing I want to
Hang
move on to.
I want to give the last 2 cents.
Oh, yeah,
The
absolutely.
only 2 cents I had for this game. It looks like Sunset Overdrive had a baby with Fortnite. That's
Sunset
it. That's all I
Overdrive.
had.
I could see that. It does have the art style of Sunset Overdrive and kind of the over the top characteristics of it. So yeah, the next story I wanted to get into was actually something that I didn't hear anything about until somebody had posted about it on the forums, on the 506 forums. and that was Halo Online. And to me, that that just came out of nowhere, because as far as I was concerned, Halo on PC is dead. It's been dead for fucking years. The last Halo game we had on PC was fucking Halo 2. So, coming to find out that a modding team known as El Dorado recently released their mod for Halo Online, giving everyone access to play essentially Halo 3 online, PvP multiplayer. And Halo Online was originally a project designed for the Russian-only market, and it was eventually just canned. It was never released. And somehow El Dorado was able to get the resources from this and create this mod for everyone to be able to download. So the want for being able to play Halo Online was evident as soon as the mod was released. They had a peak of 8,000 people playing within the first few days of the mod being released. But that many people and all of the news around it, all the videos, the Twitch streams and stuff, also drew the attention of Microsoft, who owns the IP of Halo. So 343 posted in a blog that while we are humbled and inspired to see the amount of passion poured into this project, fact remains that it is built upon Microsoft-owned assets that were never lawfully released or authorized for this purpose. As this project reverberated across the community, our team took a step back to assess the materials and explore possible avenues, while Microsoft, like any company, has a responsibility to protect its IP, code, and trademarks. In other words, it's not an option. Where they went on to say that Microsoft has taken steps to protect the Halo IP in the wake of this El Dorado PC release, and says that because the Halo 3 code was never released publicly, it does not fall under Microsoft's content usage guidelines. Because of this, Halo will be going after this mod. To which El Dorado responded that the assets needed to play the mod will be removed by Microsoft. And they went on to say, we must honor this request. During this time, please do not make threats or harass 343 Industries. So, real quickly, I want to go on to say, before we actually start talking about this, I want to go through 343's response, which was, while we have nothing to announce today, please know that the PC community is very important to us and on the top of our mind as we work towards the future. Now, Microsoft, in response, has not only not only basically removed the mod, but they've gone as far as having streams and videos taken down from Twitch and YouTube. However, 343 has expressed that they're not happy about this current situation, and they're doing everything they can to find an alternative. So why I want to point that out is El Dorado said, please do not make threats or harass 343. And even 343 expresses that they're not happy about this. They're doing everything they can to find some type of alternative. So I don't have a timetable as far as when these two statements were released, but my reading into this is telling me that 343 has reached out to El Dorado and said, look, we aren't happy about this either. We know that the need or the want for this game is there. Let us work with you to try and get something off the ground. If we can work with you and, get the blessing from Microsoft, maybe we can, make this happen in an official capacity and, try and, recover from this. So Microsoft, I can't really bag on Microsoft too much. They're, as 343 said, they're protecting their IP as any company should. And it's not that Eldorado was getting money off of this. It was a free mod. It's more so they have to set precedents. If they didn't go after them, then there's other people that could get a hold of this and potentially make money off of it. They have to set a precedence of protecting their IP. I completely understand that. This reminds me a lot of the situation last year with Take-Two and Rockstar, when Take-Two went after 5M, and even Rockstar themselves were saying, hey, we don't agree with what the studio is doing, but we don't have a choice with it. They own us. So we have to go along with it. We don't like it. We're doing everything we can to try and improve the situation, but this is what has to be done. And it sounds like a lot more of the same here, that 343 is like, hey, we're not happy about this either. We're going to do everything we can to try and make this happen. So, we could potentially see Halo Online come back in an official capacity from 343 and Microsoft. And yeah, obviously it's going to cost money. They're going to want to make money from it. But what do you guys think about this situation? Do you think this is, yet another corporation sticking their grubby paws in, trying to make some more money? Or do you think you guys think Microsoft is justified in protecting their?
I think this is more of a message than anything else. I think, yes, Microsoft's going after them because, like, obviously these are assets that Microsoft owns, and they have to do it because they don't want other people going after their stuff. But I think this whole scenario has brought up a major, like, red flag for Microsoft and for 343, is that the PC gamers want Halo. They want Halo on PC. And it's more prevalent now than ever through this mod that this is what PC gamers want. And I think that Microsoft and 343 are now just going through the process of what they have to do to protect their assets, but I think they've had their eyes opened.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would love to see like Halo 3 online come to PC, and even if it's not like, I wouldn't say, probably shouldn't end up being a $60 purchase, but like,
But it will.
35 to $40, I'd probably end up picking it up myself just so that I can play Halo 3 online, on my PC. And I guarantee there's a whole bunch of Halo nerds out there that'd be willing to do it as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've already seen there is. Within a few days, they had 8,500 people playing, or however many it was. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's pretty evident that the want is there. Foster Munson, what do you guys think? Think that this is, something that should be happening, or do you think Microsoft should just fucking stay out of it?
Well, I'll chime in. I mean, I got two minds about it. Obviously, like you said, they got to protect their assets, and I mean, with the whole president thing you also mentioned, if they don't set a precedent, it could open up them to being having their assets stolen or taken and sold or whatever, and then in court they could just say, well, they didn't go after these guys, so
Right.
why are we in trouble? So, and that's a problem because then their IP is just basically gone to the wind at that point. Um, so I understand that, but I am also a pretty big Halo fan. I've played everyone through and through, and I love it. I haven't really played Halo online yet, just because I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with it and if they add more content. But um, I don't know. I just really wish they would figure out the fact that there is a want for this, and create a product so people can have it officially. But I do wish that this project wouldn't get shut down. But like I said, you're gonna run into issues.
Right. And that's technically, like I said, that's why they have to go after them right now, because even as 343 said, none of these assets were lawfully. So that's basically alluding to these guys stole this information somehow. They didn't outright say that, but in saying none of these assets were lawfully released, that tells us they stole them somehow. Whether it was a former employee saying, "Hey, here you go, fucking have fun with this," or however they got their hands on them, any way, shape, or form, it was illegal. So that alone is enough for Microsoft to say, yeah, shut that shit down. You acquired our assets, our technology. So I can completely understand that. And like Patty said, I think very much so they have had their eyes opened and, can now see, yes, there is a want for this. We need to make something happen. And, even 343 saying, we're doing everything we can to find a good solution. What about you, Luster? Are you a fan of the Halo verse, if you will?
No, not anymore. I was I mean, I'll be honest with you. I begged. Let's see. I got an Xbox. They came out in what 2001, right? 2002, I think. Anyways, um, I begged for an Xbox for.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was like 13 or 14, and the reason why I begged for an Xbox is because Halo was going to be on it. I had been following Halo since I used to be a subscriber to PC Gamer, and PC Gamer used to give you demo discs.
Yep.
And on one of the demo discs was a trailer because I didn't have internet at the time, so I got my information from PC Gamer and whatever information was on the discs. On one of the demo discs was a trailer for Halo.
The opening trailer with the cryogenic
Pelican.
tube thing opening up, and you get to see Master Chief.
No, it was early back when it was going to be on PC originally, like just exclusively on PC or even Mac, I think. Like early footage of it starts off with like two Covenant aliens like at like a bunker on a like a mountain peak, and Master Chief snipes them. A dropship comes in, drops a warthog. You see the squad jump out. They travel to a like an underground whatever Covenant temple, and then they get ambushed. Most of the squad dies, and then Master Chief shows up, fucks everything up, and rescues like a couple of the guys that are left. And I remember the graphics at the time were like nothing I'd ever seen. We're talking
Oh
like
yeah.
post. I think it's like post Quake. Like Unreal Tournament was out, I think, but
Yeah,
like
Unreal and Quake and all that stuff was late '90s because Halo
yeah,
was 2000, like you said,
the
2000 or 2001.
right. And then when I had like so at that moment, I must have watched that trailer. I I'm pretty sure that it was either on a PC Gamer demo disc or that fucking that that Halo trailer was on I had Ground Control for PC, and it might have been on that. That's a good RTS, bro. I don't know if you ever played that, but Ground Control is a good RTS. Anyway, off the subject. I apologize. But I long story short, I got an Xbox just to play Halo,
Oh,
and
so did I. I
I
remember taking my check and cashing it and knowing that I was going to buy Xbox with that check. I spent an entire fucking paycheck to get an Xbox so I could play Halo. Like my entire week's pay was gone. Like I had to borrow gas money from Dad so that I could go back and forth to work for the week because I was buying an Xbox to play Halo on. So yeah, I was a huge fan back in the day. In fact, Halo is the only competitive multiplayer game that I really got into. I'm sure I've told you guys before that I did Halo tournaments and stuff back in the day. Me and my brother won a few Xboxes, won a couple of TVs and stuff like that from doing Halo tournaments back in, I think that was with Halo 2, is when we really started doing tournaments and so I played that a lot. And
yeah.
so I had no idea that this Halo Online existed because by like Halo 3, I did play Halo 3 online because that's when they introduced the Forge system where you can kind of build your own stuff.
Yeah.
But by that point, I had already started falling off. It was getting to be a little much, a little too out there. And then I seen this online thing and I was like, okay, that would be cool, but it's not really something that I'm into anymore. Like even if it was Halo 2 style, I wouldn't play it just because that's not really my forte anymore. I'm not into
No,
the competitive
yeah, me
shooter.
neither. Not at all. Halo, that was it for me. I played one, I played two. Three, I played the campaign for three, I think, but didn't really have any. My interest had fizzled out at that point. There was um, there was a mod, however, there was a mod that you could do where you plug your Xbox into the internet, and you could basically simulate. You're simulating a LAN It wasn't like it was like dedicated software. It wasn't Hamachi or Tungle or anything like that. I don't even think those programs existed yet in 2000, 2001. But basically, it simulated a local area network, and you could do the equivalent of an Xbox LAN party with 8 people playing Halo, the first Halo, online, which was pretty fun. So like me and a buddy of mine were playing against like 2 other players in like California or something like that.
Oh,
Because
nice.
the first Halo, if I don't, because I understand that some of the people that are watching or listening rather might not know this, but the original Xbox did not have online multiplayer.
No.
There
You
was
could
no
LAN it,
Xbox Live.
but you couldn't. Yeah, there was no Xbox Live. Xbox Live didn't
Yes.
get introduced until 360.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very, very many nights were spent with all of us packed into my brother's house. I'll never forget. My brother had this little 1-bedroom house with a full basement, and we would pack 16 fucking people into this house on 4 different TVs.
4
Each one of them,
Xboxes, yeah.
yep, with 4-way cut screens, and we'd have 4 Xboxes, and we'd have 16 people in there playing Halo for hours on end. I mean, until like the sun was coming up, we would be playing Halo with 16 fucking people packed in the house. We'd order fucking pizza. You know, we'd have fucking 4 or 5 people in the living room, a few people watching. We'd have 4 people stuffed in the bedroom, 8 people down in the basement. You know, it was just utter fucking chaos. There was constantly somebody taking a piss in the bathroom, so you're like, fuck, I gotta go outside. But yeah, those are like some of my favorite gaming memories, was having 16 fucking people packed in this little like 1,200 square foot house playing Halo.
Sounds like heaven.
But I should point out, as Tootie also mentioned in chat there, the servers are still up for this Halo Online. What they did is they didn't pull the servers down. The servers are remaining up at least for the near future. Again, they didn't give an exact date on when the servers would be pulled down, if they do get pulled down. But all they did was remove the assets that are needed to play it. So basically, if you haven't downloaded it by this point, you can't go download it. There is no links to get the download anywhere or anything like that. So if you have it right now, you can still go play it. The servers are still there. You just can't download it fresh. So it is a bummer that you can't get your hands on it, but it does still exist if it's something that you already got a hold of. So the next thing I want to get into is something that we talked about a little bit on the last podcast, when we were talking about that Dell laptop that was marketed in China as being able to run cheats and stuff.
To
You remember
cater
that?
to cheaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talked about that, I said, I don't really think anything's going to come of this as far as, the Chinese government going after cheaters and stuff, because they don't give a shit. They've been sued multiple times as far as copyright infringements and stuff, especially by automakers and things like that, and nothing ever happens. It goes to the copyright courts in China, and the judges say, yeah, no, doesn't look anything like it, and dismiss the case. So very much so, I didn't think anything was going to happen from this. Holy shit, was I wrong. So news broke that 15 major suspects were arrested in China for developing hack programs, hosting marketplaces for hack programs, and brokering transactions. Altogether, these 15 suspects are facing fines totaling $5.1 million.
Cue the applause track.
Yeah. And other suspects are still being investigated. So there's potentially more people that are going to be fucking wrangled in on this. So PUBG Corp, who, Bluehole is PUBG Corp, went on to say that the long-standing rumor that hacking, cheating programs extract information from users' PCs has been confirmed to be true. Some hack programs are being distributed through the internet, or some hack programs that are being distributed through the internet include a Trojan horse virus. It was proven that hack developers use this virus to control users' PCs, scan their data, and extract information illegally. So this is, just the next step of PUBG trying to take control of their own game basically and put an end to the cheating that's been going on pretty much rampantly. So these arrests are in addition to the millions of accounts that have already been banned, including the 1 million accounts that they banned in January alone. However, obviously the problem still does persist. They are still fighting it. So I think honestly, the biggest reason that this has happened, that we're actually seeing people get arrested in China for developing these hacks, and obviously seeing very hefty fucking fines and potentially facing jail time. The company that owns PUBG Corp is Tencent, the biggest game company in the world by a long ways. There was actually a story that I left out today because I just have too much shit, but it is basically important to this, and that is that Tencent is the ` game company in the world, earning $18.1 billion last year, more than $4 billion above second place, the second place company. So Tencent is a Chinese-based company, and they own PUBG Corp. So all this negative impact and negative press that they get from cheaters in PUBG and everything is going directly to Tencent, the biggest game company in the world that happens to be based in China, where all this hacking is coming from. So I think that's why the Chinese government is bending a little bit and saying, okay, yeah, we're going to trace these guys down, because when you have a company that makes $18 billion a year and probably puts quite a bit of that money into fucking government taxes, yeah, the government's going to be more apt to get involved. So in February, a report from the anti-cheat software BattlEye announced that 99% of accounts banned originated in China. So, as I said, as I believe, initially believed the Chinese government wouldn't do anything about this, that's obviously changed. Now, in addition to this, it was also announced that Overwatch has followed suit. And they, working with the South Korean government in Seoul, have arrested 13 hackers in South Korea. One of those hackers has already been sentenced to 2 years in prison, and another fined $10,000. The remaining cases are still under investigation. So one of the dudes is already spending 2 years in prison, already sentenced, done and over with. Others are still being investigated. One guy has already been fined 10 grand. So all said and done, between PUBG and Overwatch, over $5 million in fines, 2 years in jail time already, and still investigations going on. I can never remember a situation like this, like on this scale. Like the closest I can remember to this big of a deal as far as like really anything online and shit like that is probably Napster. That's the last big thing I remember being this huge of a deal, is Napster. And the whole loot box thing with national governments getting involved and ruling them illegal and stuff like that. But in terms of people receiving fines like this and jail time, I mean, even like pirating type websites like Pirate Bay and stuff like that, I never remember anything on this scale. Can you guys think of anything like this where you're seeing millions of dollars of fines and years of prison time?
Usually, well, with the issue of piracy, I've seen like cease and desists. I've seen
Right.
dudes hauled in front of judges, and assessed fines, but never sent to prison. Usually, I mean, I understand that that's a possibility. You can face prison time for pirating, but I have a feeling that the federal government isn't interested in sending people who copy and fucking
Well, I
Game
do
of Thrones.
believe the guy who originally built Pirate Bay, he was arrested by it was the Norwegian government finally got a
Okay.
hold of him, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. But by that point, it didn't matter. The servers were no longer even under his control. He had nothing to do at that point, but it originated with him, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. But when you think about it, when you think about the scale of it, you take Pirate Bay into account, where not only are they pirating movies, and how many millions upon millions of dollars have movie studios lost out by people pirating via Pirate Bay alone, not even taking like kick-ass torrents and stuff like that into account, but also games, all the game studios that have lost massive money because of the pirating, and he only received 5 years in prison. So for these guys, even just the PUBG stuff alone, for these 15 guys to be, get $5 million in fines, potentially facing jail time, and other cases still being under investigation, like, this is massive. They are not fucking around.
If I could pop in
Yeah,
here
absolutely.
real quick. So at least in my experience, and we talked about this on the Safety's Off podcast a few weeks ago, some Asian cultures, not all, but some, don't revere cheating as an immoral practice.
Mm-hmm.
I think specifically the Chinese culture do not. And I mean, this is coming from a college professor who teaches a majority of college Chinese students from abroad. Cheating is just a common practice, and we see it every day. The problem is trying to be able to prove it and stuff like that. But even in their gaming culture, and I've talked to Chinese students about their gaming culture, cheating for them is just like another way to play the game.
Yeah, it's just proving that you're smarter than the developer or whatever.
Exactly. So like it's they like, but I think the problem is right now is that these games don't have a way for the culture to expand upon that aspect of gameplay. And so I mean, like we as American gamers, I mean, at least majority of us don't want to cheat, because that's not how the game is played. It's like, you don't cheat at a board game, because then you kill the fun for everybody.
Everybody
Because the
fucking
whole
cheats
point
at
of gaming is-
Monopoly.
It's true. Everybody sneaks a $100 bill from while the banker's not looking.
Right.
But the point is that like these Chinese gamers or these Asian gamers who don't have the ability to express that aspect of their gaming culture tend to, at this point, obviously not care about how many accounts that they have, as long as they can continue playing the game that how they want to play it, And so that, I think, becomes where we might actually end up having a solution to where, if these players want to play against each other, we could have very specific servers where it's like, this is obviously
Right.
we won't
This
have
is only for
the
cheaters.
anti-cheat software on this server. You can play it how you want.
Well, there's been multiple games at this point that have done pretty much exactly that, where if you're caught cheating, you can still play the game, but you only get to play the game with other cheaters.
You get blacklisted, basically.
Yeah. Which that's fine with me. Like, I think that's a pretty good kind of middle ground. Is okay, yeah, that's fine. If you want to cheat, that's perfectly fine. But you're only going to be able to play with other cheaters. Like, that to me is smart. I think more so where the big problem is here, and why we're really seeing huge fines and jail time and stuff like that, is because of the fact that they're invading computers and stealing, sensitive information and shit like that. It's not just, oh, you're cheating at the game. It's, no, you're illegally acquiring people's information and that to fucking get money, do whatever. That's where the big which I completely agree with. Like, there's no point in time where I'm ever going to be like, no, I'll leave those guys alone. Like, fuck off, they're pieces of shit. They should rot in jail. So really, I don't really have, I guess, a lot of thoughts on this subject other than kudos to them. I'm amazed that the Chinese government's actually doing something about it. But at the same time, I'm not, because, again, Tencent is a massive company and they're based in China. So it's kind of a no-brainer that, something would come of it because of that. But I, at no point in time do I have a problem with them going after cheaters in a way when they're illegally obtaining people's information in an effort to gain money and steal their identity. That. So the next story that I want to move on to, again, something that we talked about a little bit on the last podcast and that I brought up at the start of this podcast, and that is Corey Barlog. I just want to call him Balrog. So I'm going to call him Corey Balrog. He's the lead of the God of War studio, and as of late, kind of a community darling because of how good the game is. And like I said, that video that I spoke about of his reaction to the first time seeing the outstanding Metacritic score on God of War. So he, has been doing all the press tours and interviews and stuff like that since God of War is now the best-selling Sony exclusive in history. So earlier in the week, he sat down on Kotaku's Split Screen podcast, and they asked him, what you have mapped out in your head as far as future God of War games. And he very quickly and simply answered 5 games. Just that quick. They said, what do you have planned out in your head as far as future games for God of War? And he said 5 games. Which, upon initially hearing that, you're like, holy shit. Like, 5 games? Really? Like, you're kind of going down the path of Assassin's Creed there. Let's calm it down a little bit. We really like the first one, but don't try and jam it down our throats here. So when he was then asked about the timetable of those 5 games and whether it would take 5 years apiece like it did with God of War, his explanation very simply was, and this is quoting, "No, I want to figure out how to make these things faster, man." Which immediately made me think of him as Jeff Bridges from Tron. Like, that's just, like, to me, that made me think that's the kind of game developer he is. Mostly because he said "man" at the end of a sentence.
Well, that's like your opinion, man.
Yeah, exactly. So he then went on to explain that much of God of War had to be done, redone, started from scratch, and so on, which is why it took so long to complete. Because obviously, they're starting completely from scratch. They didn't reuse any assets, nothing. They had to make a whole new game, and an amazing game. I haven't even gotten to play it, and I think it's amazing just from watching other people fucking. However, I think after kind of realizing, oh shit, what did I just say? Because when this podcast went live, and then Kotaku also published it on their website, a lot of people took note and said, "Holy fuck, he's gonna make 5 more God of War games." He then went on to Twitter to backpedal a little bit. And he said, again quoting, "Okay, be honest, 5 games would literally kill me. You can rest assured the reality is going to be more measured than the speculation in the Kotaku discussion." Which I don't think he means that Kotaku was speculating because he said it. I think he means that he was speculating. Maybe we'll do 5 games. But after the reaction to it, he very quickly realized, okay, I may have overstepped a little bit and said something I should have. However, in another interview he did right after the release of God of War, he said, "I'd love to work on something of my own vision. It's just a matter of convincing Sony to do so." So after reading basically those 2 interviews, like the take I got on it was that he sounds like a guy who's a very passionate game developer, as we talked about last time. I mean, he broke down in tears in the video, seeing the Metacritic score of his game that he just spent 5 years of his life working on. Very, very passionate game developer who I think has gotten in a little over his head. Almost overnight, this guy is, one of the biggest names in the game industry, Everybody wants to talk to him, know what he's doing next, what he's working on, so on and so forth. And, he's on the podcast and they say, well, what are you planning next? And he's like, oh, like 5 games. Just kind of throwing it out there as, yeah, we could, probably end up making 5 games eventually. And, previously, right after God of War was released, he's saying, I would love to do something of my own. Now, whether or not something of his own is more creative control over God of War and them just kind of handing him over the reins and saying, yeah, do whatever you want with it because it was a huge success, or if he means he wants to, make his own IP, so on, we don't know because he didn't actually say one way or the other. But to me, him saying that they were going to make 5 games and then later on saying, if I try and make 5 games, it's going to kill me. It's just not going to be possible. It's going to be much more measured than that. That to me, just like I said, looks a lot like a guy who's just been very rapidly thrust into the spotlight and, just saying whatever the fuck pops out and then realizing afterwards, oh, holy shit, when I say something now, tens of thousands of people respond to it, not just 200. So what do you guys think about this? Do you think he's in a little bit over his head like I do, or do you think that he's really eager to do this and wanted to work on his own thing, and Sony's pressuring him to do the next God of War, and he's like, well, I'll do 5 games, and then Sony called him and we're like, what in the fuck are you thinking you're doing? Tell him you're going to do 5 games. You'll do 1, and if that does good, we'll see if you'll do a 3rd. I mean, what do you guys think?
I don't know a ton about this other than what you're telling me. I did see a lot of game footage and some people playing it, and it does look good, and I like it from that aspect. But as far as the game goes, if he's getting more or not, I don't. I mean, I would say yeah, probably they have a Project or 2 set up for him, but five games set up. I don't know about that. I don't know if he's talking out of his out of his butt on that one or what, but 5 games is
Yeah,
a bit excessive.
I don't think it's 5 games either. And even he said it's not 5 games. I think it was just a knee jerk reaction of throwing a number out there and it being taken literally and him not realizing that it was going to be taken literally. And that's why he, you know, went on to Twitter and said, "Hey, look, that's not the case. It's not going to be 5 games. I would fucking die if I did that." And that's why I think he's just a little bit in over his head. Not that he can't handle it, it's just he wasn't expecting the kind of response that he's gotten as a result of God of War being so successful. Um, I mean, what do you think about this, Patty?
I'm under the impression that I think his heart's in the right place because he has spawned such a fantastic, I don't want to say revitalization because, like, I guess that's what you could call it, really.
Well, it is kind of a
But
revitalization. There's been a lot of news stories since God of War came out of people saying, single player games aren't dead and citing God of War as the reason.
I think as a story writer, he's fantastic. Like I've watched enough to know that like this game it's got me. Like this is something I would read. I could take a
Oh,
book
yeah.
of this and read it and really
Oh,
love it.
and believe when I get to this next news story, you'll completely understand or you'll completely agree with it. But please continue.
I think his heart's in the right place. I think he probably wants to do more with it. Um, I'd love to see one more, like if he would, because I know we transferred from Greek mythology over to Norse mythology. I'd love to see maybe one more jump,
To
maybe
Egyptian.
maybe to Egyptian, just to see like where it takes him, or like maybe Atreus has grown up and maybe it's him going to the Egyptian land to try to help, um, maybe Kratos has fallen ill or something. I don't know, but I think there's at least one more really good story in this, just doing another mythology jump and seeing how they all kind of tie together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Um,
I would absolutely agree.
But I think his heart's in the right place. As far as the 5 game thing, I think he's probably never been asked that question
Right.
before.
Nobody
He's
has
probably
ever
just
given
got-
a shit what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was just a jump start, and he got really excited. So I mean, it's just good to see somebody has that kind of enthusiasm for the work that they do. So I think his heart's in the right place.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's as I said, obviously we know he's very passionate about this game specifically, but I would assume that he would be that passionate about anything that he's working on, especially something that's taking up that large of a chunk of his life. So I am I'm still very eager to see what he does next, even though he's basically contracted with Sony right now. So I mean, he does another God of War, then it's gonna be on PlayStation only because God of War is exclusive to Sony. And I don't own a PlayStation, so I probably won't even play the next thing he makes. But I'll watch the fuck out of it because, like you said, it's something I would read. That's a book I would read. That's a movie I would watch. It's a game I would play. Whether I have the console to play it or not, I'll sit there and watch someone play it like it's a fucking movie. That's how
Yeah,
good the writing is.
I feel really dirty for admitting this, but I've basically just been watching the entire game on YouTube. It's like a 5 or 6 hour video, and I just want it for the story. Like I could watch this, and I'm totally happy just getting the story.
Yeah,
not
like
playing the game.
I've been watching.
This is one of those games.
Yeah, I've been watching Goldie play through it. I've been watching Shank play through it, and and on top of it, though, the reason I like that it's a game is that I also get the player's perspective. Like when I sit there and watch Goldie play it, or I'm watching Shank play it, I get kind of their commentary on the current situation and their thoughts of it, which is kind of cool because it's like getting to watch a movie with your buddy, or reading the same book as your friend and then getting together and talking about it. So it's cool to have that aspect of it, which takes me right into this next news story that I thought was absolutely awesome, and is directly related to God of War because Christopher Judge, the actor who is the voice of Kratos in the new God of War game, also played Teal'c on that show.
Super badass.
Why can I Stargate? There we go. All I can ever
Boy.
think of is the original movie with fucking I can't remember his name either. Jesus Christ, I'm always horrible with names when I'm on the spot. Kurt Russell.
I doubt
that's
Jesus
it.
Christ. I doubt Jesus Christ was starred in that movie.
Actually, Jesus Christ was kind of in that movie. The old man, like the leader of the tribe, had a little bit of a Jesus vibe to him. Anyways, Christopher Judge has said in an interview with the BBC that things have changed in video game voice acting. He said that video games used to be where you went when your career was over in front of a camera. He then went on to say that he had no idea that he was reading a script for a video game when he first received it. He said, reading the script for the first time, I thought it was for a big A-list film. I'm sure my agents purposely didn't tell me that it was for a game because I've been staunchly against doing them in the past. Now every actor I know is searching for a lead role in a game. He then went on to explain that he didn't realize it was a game until he was called back after his audition. But at that point, he was okay with it because of the strength of the material. And said that games are not just about gameplay anymore, but about the stories. There are wonderful tales to be told in this medium, and it's truly just another form to exercise your craft. So this is a guy who has been in Hollywood. Yeah, he may not be the biggest actor in the world, but a lot of people recognize him for two things. One, he has a very unique look, and he was in a very popular show. Maybe not, the biggest show on the planet, but has a very strong following. Two, is a very, very unique voice, and people can recognize his voice. I mean, people knew it was him playing Kratos as soon as they heard the voice. They knew, holy shit, that's Teal'c. So my thing is, obviously this to me is great news. I completely agree with him that, I could read that and not realize it's for a fucking video game. you would think that this is some movie that fucking Peter Jackson is getting ready to, but him saying that, granted, I think this is very much so an over exaggeration, but him saying that every actor he knows is now looking for a lead. Is that something you guys think we're going to see more of in the future? I mean, we did just have fucking Josh Duhamel in the last Call of Duty game, which I know goddamn sure he didn't take it for the writing. He took it for the fucking fat ass paycheck he was about to get from it. But do you guys think that given games like this, like God of War, that have been very critically acclaimed, have a fairly big actor in Christopher Judge doing the voice work, and other games like The Last of Us, who had amazing voice talent, as well as The Witcher and things along those lines, very story-driven games. Do you guys think we're going to see more Hollywood actors moving to the medium of video games and doing more voice acting?
I do. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't noticed, to everyone, I guess, gaming is getting more and more mainstream. Um, if you look at Korea, China, uh, more so Asia than the U.S., but it's super mainstream, and here it's getting mainstream all the time. And everybody likes to cite uh, that game with what was it, Drake and that ninja streamer guy playing
Oh
Fortnite.
yeah.
Everybody likes to cite that as a huge example of that. Uh, so I do think that will get it in people's heads more, and then more people will see these more story-driven games, uh, you know, and they can make that separation between games like Fortnite and something like uh, The Witcher or something, and they'll sign off on something like that because it is a really good
Yeah,
project
and
and
when you
the
look at
story
the
goes with it.
when you look at the numbers alone, the gaming industry did 40 billion in 2017. Movies did 36 billion. So gaming is already out earning movies. And Grand Theft Auto 5, where another great group of voice actors, and the guy that played Trevor is now on TV shows. He's done more movies
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I actually just watched a movie uh, the other night that I forgot he was in, called He Never Died, with fucking god damn it, why can I not remember his name? The lead singer of Black Flag. Neither of you know who Black Flag is.
Nope.
Christ, he's one of the most interesting human beings on the planet. Anyways, he was in that movie. Completely forgot that he was in it. But he's getting a lot of recognition because of the voice acting that he did in GTA 5. Henry Rollins, that's his name. That's the guy that was in the movie, not the guy that played Trevor. Anyways, he's been getting movies and stuff like that because of his voice acting in GTA 5. So when you look at just the numbers are already there. There's already that monetary draw. Like I said, you have Josh Duhamel in the new fucking Call of Duty. You had Kit Harington in the fucking one before that, when Kit Harington was one of the biggest fucking actors on the planet at the time because of Game of Thrones. He did a fucking Call of Duty game because they said, hey, you want the same amount of money for, a few days worth of work as what you would get for a year's worth of work on Game of Thrones? Come do this game voiceover.
Plus, the other thing too that you got to realize is a movie's like a pretty much a one-time thing. You know what I mean? They film it, they air it, or they show it in theaters, and then they sell it on DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, Netflix, and that's it. It's done. Um, Whereas with a video game, there's more replayability value.
Yeah.
And I think there's more ability to sell copies.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, video game sales are well above and beyond, DVD sales of film by a long fucking. So, I love the idea of this. In addition to that, the game that you guys are watching me play right now, Pillars of Eternity 2, Ashley Johnson does all of the narration for this game. She is the girl who did Ellie's voice in The Last of Us. She's also an actress. She's on the show Blind Spot, done a bunch of movies, stuff like that. Has amazing voice for narration, or character acting, whatever. She just has a great voice. She's actually an excellent fucking singer too. She does a cover of House of the Rising Sun that's fucking outstanding. But you know,
that I need to listen to.
it is very, very fucking good. All acoustic and shit. But you know, I like this idea. I know that from watching interviews and stuff like that, there are a lot of actors who enjoy doing voiceover in terms of movies. You know, doing animated movies. Every actor I've seen, when they ask them about doing voiceover in like Pixar movies stuff like that, they all say they fucking love it because you show up wearing whatever the fuck it is you're wearing, do your day's worth of work, and then you're done, and you get to go on and see that character that you voiced a year, 2 years later, whatever. So I like the idea of seeing more Hollywood actors get involved, but at the same time, I don't want to see basically what Call of Duty's done and said, hey, we'll give you a fat fucking paycheck to deliver these few lines half-heartedly, and you'll be good to go. Because let's face it, anybody that's seen the fucking cutscenes from Call of Duty, Josh Duhamel, pretty cool actor sometimes. I'm not exactly the hugest fan, but he's a dog shit interpretation of a World War II era platoon sergeant. Plain and fucking simple. The guy is a piece of shit. And that's, granted, a lot of that is on the writing. They wrote the character like dog shit. If there was a platoon sergeant that acted like that in World War II, he wouldn't have made it out of the fucking country because he would have been buried somewhere. But, in addition, just like his delivery of the lines was just, like, you could tell that dude was reading it off of a page sitting in front of him. Like, it didn't feel genuine at all when he was speaking. So I don't want to see that. But I would love to see more Christopher Judges in there doing voice acting. And Aaron wants Dale in ArmA 4. Who the fuck are you talking about, Dale? Which Dale? Anybody have an idea of which Dale? Oh, I know. Christ. It means Dale fucking die. Yeah, I would fucking love to have Dale fucking die in a video game, but Dale die is getting pretty up there in age. I don't know if he'd be willing to come out of retirement for stuff like that. I know he still does like consulting and stuff like that, but I don't know if he'd be willing to do like actual acting and stuff anymore at this point, because like I said, he's pretty up there. Yeah, that would be fucking amazing to have Dale die in some games. So the next thing I want to get into is a game that initially I wasn't interested in at all, and that is State of Decay 2. Now, have you guys seen this game at all or been interested in it? Actually, Loster, I know, like, me and you were talking about it right before we went live with the podcast about State of Decay 2. Had you looked into it at all, or really had any thoughts on it before I showed you the stuff that we're going over tonight?
No, I hadn't known that it was even. I hadn't known that the game was even successful enough to warrant a sequel. I liked State of Decay, but my feelings towards it were always like, it's one of those games. What is it like Pillars of Eternity, like this, or I think Drum mentioned Pillars of Eternity. It's like one of these games that's just begging for co-op.
Mm-hmm.
And State of Decay was one of those games where it was begging to have cooperative, and it just never got it. And that alone, even if they just re-released State of Decay and said, okay, there's co-op, that I would buy that like immediately, because like that's all I needed really, like just to have those features, to have that game as even in its current state, and just here play with a friend or play with multiple friends, go out and scavenge together, watch each other's backs. Like that's I feel like you and I feel the same way. Like that's a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah, and like Melia said in chat there, the first one was fun, but this looks like the same game. I would agree. It does very much so look like the same game. Maybe, just with minor graphical upgrades and shit, obviously, is a while later. I initially, when I seen like the announcement or whatever for State of Decay 2, I didn't give a shit. I don't care. Like I played the first one a little bit. I wasn't overly impressed. You know, again, it didn't have co-op, which that game needed so much. So then I, got to looking at news stories for the podcast this week, and this story popped up about State of Decay 2, and I started reading into it. So, State of Decay 2 is a zombie survival / base building game that'll be released on Xbox and PC May 22nd, so here in a week. And like I said, I had no interest in this because it's another fucking zombie survival game. Fucking DayZ made me hate all of them. But State of Decay 2 is going to have full co-op, including cross-platform play between Xbox and PC, which is really fucking cool. Co-op alone, badass. Cross-play, even cooler. If you got a buddy that fucking doesn't have a PC, but he's got a Xbox One, he can get it and play with you on PC. That's pretty fucking cool. The last game I can remember doing that is fucking Rocket League.
Yeah.
So
I count on one hand Shadowrun, that shitty CS:GO ripoff. Fucking Rocket League, Portal 2 was cross-platform, and
Portal 2 is
this-
actually really fucking fun.
yeah,
Granted,
You can
it'll make you
cross-platform.
ruin friendships, but it's fun.
and marriages. My wife was pretty vicious to me when we played that game together.
I'm sure it was deserved.
Of course.
So this obviously, just saying it's got co-op, that's big for me right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's got co-op, I'm in.
Go ahead
well,
if you want. Let me finish. I'll let you finish.
Like I said, just saying that it's got co-op is big for me. But as I read more into the story, I got even more interested in it, not because of the features of the game, because of the statements made by the creative director, Richard Fogg. Fogg said, "The studio has had to stick to our guns. I've been talking to a lot of journalists, and they'll ask me about making a battle royale game because literally everyone else is doing it." He said, "It's like there's this field of wheat, and somebody's built this perfect, glorious combine, and it went over that field. So everybody asked me, would you also like to build a combine? But there's no wheat left. There's nothing left for us to harvest." I fucking love that analogy. Like, that is such a great analogy of him saying, no, there's nothing there for us. That's already been harvested. Why would I want to make a fucking battle royale game when everybody's already doing it? It doesn't make any sense. So he went on to say that he'd rather focus on what they're trying to do with State of Decay 2 and find something unique to do within their market rather than jump on the wagon of others and hope for scraps. I fucking love this guy. Yeah. So he said, in terms of monetization, he said they completely stay away from loot boxes and microtransactions entirely, stating that it doesn't make sense for our game. There's going to be a one-time price for it, rather than a relationship with the game where people pay for things and don't know what they're going to get. That shouldn't feel right. We didn't want microtransactions or where you're buying loot boxes with Zombucks or anything like that. He also went on to say that they wanted to build a sense of community cohesiveness by staying away from PvP multiplayer and staying away from the all hope is lost style of games like The Walking Dead. He said it always seems to be driving towards the sad ending and the horrible things happening. I definitely want to flip that. We wanted the overall tone to be hopeful. We're driving towards something that's going to put humanity back on top, as opposed to feeling like everything we do is essentially worthless." Dude, this guy's like speaking to my fucking heart at this point, is like, I've watched some of the gameplay of it. There's a few streamers that have gotten early access to it. Like I told Loster before we went live, I was watching Vern, which is one of Gold Glove's buddies, play it, and it does look decent. I mean, like I said, it looks like basically a graphical upgrade to the first game. But
Giant Bomb is
it's
playing it right now, actually.
oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But don't go watch them right now. I mean, stay here
No,
and
no, stay
watch
on the
my
stream.
shit.
Don't
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
you
stay
dare
here,
fuck away.
fuckers. But it looks like about half of the game is around building and maintaining your base, and kind of building that up and getting production of different things flowing and protecting it from zombies and stuff. And the other half is going out and scavenging, with your friends and stuff like that, and actually getting the stuff you need to upgrade your base, and basically rebuild humanity, rebuild civilization, starting in your own little corner of the world. Um, so like I said, I love the co-op aspect of it. I like the base building aspect of it and having to go out and scavenge things to bring back to your base and stuff. I love that. But I dig what this dude's saying. Saying, no, we're not going to do a fucking battle royale game. There's nothing there for us. I'd rather focus on what we're doing and make it unique to our game and not do what everybody else has done. And I don't want microtransactions. It doesn't make any sense to have microtransactions in our game. You're going to pay one time for it, and that's it. And on top of that, for him to say that he wants to build a community cohesion where you're working together with each other, not against each other, like fucking DayZ tried that you were survivors together. It failed fucking miserably because everyone just shoots you and takes your shit.
It makes you drink bleach.
Right. So he said, we're just going to do away with that altogether. We're not even going to give people the opportunity to be douchebags because of the anonymity of the internet. We're just going to get rid of it and say, you have to fucking work together because that's the only way to survive. I dig that. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board. Like 100% co-op. Like you take like the Division for example, the fact that the PvP is a separate animal and you can play that entire game and not go do the Dark Zone once and get everything that game has to offer. If you got shitty teammates, you just fucking kick them out. That's fine, and then get not so shitty teammates. It's a game that begs to be played, cooperatively. Um, Regardless of whether or not anyone thinks it's a good game, team up with some friends and you can play it. It's fun. I think Borderlands is another one.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a single element of PvP in Borderlands except you can like 1v1 each other like as just for fun. And a game runs it's perfectly fine co-op. There needs to be more of that, I think.
Yeah, and
it's a shot.
And like Heckman said too, as with anything that's going on to Xbox exclusive now, or Microsoft exclusive, I should say, it's play anywhere. So if you buy it on PC, you also own it on Xbox. So if you have a PC and an Xbox One, if you feel like sitting on the fucking couch that day and playing with your buddy, you can fire it up on your Xbox One. If you feel like being a little more serious and sitting down with your mouse and keyboard, you can fire it up on your PC.
I actually had a question. It goes back to something that Melius stated a little earlier. The lipstick on a pig analogy. The whole it looks like the exact same game. I was literally just thinking about this like 10 minutes ago when I stepped out for a cigarette. I was thinking about like, okay, you could. This is for you, Brewer. Basically, what the analogy I'm about to make.
Are you saying that I look like pig with lipstick on?
Yes, yeah,
Fuck
exactly.
you.
Probably even more so with the cast and the.
Yeah, and the head wounds, yes.
The question that I had is CNC Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2, for all intents purposes, are pretty much the same game. Like they run on the same engine, they have the same.
Yes and no, though. Tiberian Sun had completely different units.
Regardless, like again, lipstick on a pig. You're just changing. It's just a different coat of paint, basically. My point that I'm making is that I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think that how far like I understand that we can't just keep releasing the same product over and over again, but that's what Madden does, and that's what NHL does, and that's what the NBA games do. All the sports games do that, and they sell millions of copies. And Call of Duty does the same shit year after year. New coat of paint, same thing, same house, new coat of paint on it. And I don't think that that's how far removed. I think if you remove yourself too far from what originally made you what you are, you get CNC4. Like
Oh God.
I just I'm not opposed to Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed 2 is a better game than Assassin's Creed 1, but it's basically the same game. There's just more content. There's more story. Like it's still the same game. It's just a little bit a bigger version of that game. GTA 4, GTA 5, GTA 3. These are all the same games. They just have slightly better controls, better graphics, and they're bigger worlds that we inhabit. And it's like I think that works. I think that's why Max Payne 3 is good. It's still Max Payne. It's just a little bit different than 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's one of those, and those sports games that you mentioned, NBA and all the fucking 2K games, and all of that. Those are starting to see that backlash of, hey, this is the same fucking game over and over. Haven't added anything, this and that.
Sure.
As to where, some people were even saying that Far Cry 5, like, oh, well, this is Wildlands, but without co-op. It's just a better version of Wildlands without co-op. I mean, yes and no. Of course, you're gonna see a likeness between a company's new game and the last game that they just did. It would be not necessarily stupid, but they're gonna follow what works and improve upon something. If it worked remotely, they're gonna say, "Hey, yeah, this worked. Let's improve it."
Yes.
Which is what they're doing here. State of Decay wasn't a massive success, but it also wasn't a horrible
Yeah.
failure.
And
Yeah. But they looked at that and said, "Okay, how can we take this and improve it? How can we make this not only better than what it is, but make it unique from everything else that we're competing against?"
yeah, and I agree. And I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not endorsing the Ubisoft, EA, Activision mantra of let's make a new game every year. I'm not endorsing that practice. But you take Hitman for example. They make a game like every 3, 4 years, and Hitman's been the same game since the fucking first one.
Yeah.
Like they haven't changed. You're Agent 47. You kill people. You change your disguise. No one seems to notice this fucking pale white bald guy walking around Chinatown with a fucking police officer's uniform on. Everyone's fine with that. That's fine, and that's always been like the charm of that game, always. And it never really changes. It gets bigger, and the controls get better, the graphics get better, but the game has always been pretty much the same. And I'm fine with that. If you want to make a new game every few years, it's basically the same game, but you're just building on top of it. But the core ingredients are still there. I'm perfectly fine with that. I just don't like when games get too far removed because they're tired of being. If you're at a point where you're like, oh, you're just making another one, maybe you're making too many, and maybe
Yeah.
you need to switch IPs at this point. Maybe you need to
And
change your
well,
material.
a very good example of that is Assassin's Creed. I
Yeah,
mean, when
Origins. Yeah,
well, the one before Origins, where you played the brother and sister or whatever, um, that didn't have great reviews. It was like,
Syndicate.
yeah, Syndicate.
Okay.
That's it. People really bagged on that game. I've played I think an hour of it. I just can't get through it. And then they said, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's take a couple years and make a whole new Assassin's Creed, something genuinely different. And then they released Origins, and it came out, and everybody's like, "Holy shit, this is great! Like, why the fuck? This is the best thing since Black Flag." Which Black Flag again was something very different. You were adding in ship combat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So everybody was like, just fucking do this. Stop doing the annual, Call of Duty style release, and take 2 years, 3 years to make a game. And I'm okay with that because again, Assassin's Creed ultimately is still the same game. You hide in a bush, wait for somebody to walk by, you pop out, knife them in the fucking throat. The happy half-tard that's standing 5 feet away, somehow
Doesn't
doesn't
notice.
hear you, and you go on about your day. Yeah, you're not climbing in fucking towers every 10 minutes, but essentially it's the same game. But they added enough new things to it to make it feel fresh and feel new. And that I'm perfectly okay with. Whether or not State of Decay 2 is going to be able to do that, I don't know. I can't say for sure, but what I can say for sure is the co-op aspect alone is going to completely change the game style of it. That,
Absolutely.
to me personally, is enough to justify buying it. That alone changes the gameplay enough for me to justify dropping the money on it. You know, it was, I've said many times, you know, a lot of people can bag all they want on the Division. That was some of the funnest fucking times I ever had playing video games. Was, you know, me, Franklin, and Heckman, and, you know, Hammer or Hammond or Cherry or somebody, you know, the four of us hopping in and playing the Division. And for weeks after that game came out, it was every day, you know, there'd be like 8, 9 people in a fucking TeamSpeak channel all deciding who the 4 people were going to be to play the Division together. And the other guys were like, oh, the last kid's picked on the fucking dodgeball team. You know, and it was like that for weeks, but it was stupid fun. Despite the downfalls of the game, it was fun because of playing with friends. And I think it'll be the exact same thing with State of Decay 2. Whether the gameplay itself or the story itself isn't that great, I still think it'll be fun to play with friends. And fucking Wildlands was another one like that. You know, that
Yeah, Wildlands is hot garbage.
yeah, the game is not
utter
that great.
shit
It's got a
at
lot of
all.
problems, or at least it did. I don't know what all they've changed with it since, but it was fun to play with friends. I still had a good time. I still think I got my money's worth. Same with Far Cry 5. Far Cry 5, I would never have bought. Wouldn't have gave a fuck about it at all. But they had co-op, and that made it fun as fuck. I played hours in that game co-op with, you know, Shank and with Locke and
Me.
and with you, and it didn't, like, I didn't give a shit if we were playing in my game or if I was playing in somebody else's game and I wasn't getting any progression. I didn't care because just the gameplay alone with somebody else was fun enough to that I didn't give a shit about the progression. Yeah, Division was polished fun. And that was another thing that kind of pissed me off when that game came out. Everybody fucking bitching and moaning about that game looking like shit. I remember day one firing that fucking game up, and when we first entered the city and it was snowing, and I was like, oh my fucking god, this looks beautiful. I don't know
Who
what
the fuck said it looked like shit?
Because
Well, it's
everybody
not-
was saying that it was
shit in them.
everybody
not
was
that it
saying that it
looked
was
bad.
downgraded from what
Yes,
they showed
it's
at
not-
E3.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, it's going to look downgraded on your $300 PC, considering they were showing it on E3 being rendered on a fucking $10,000 supercomputer. Of course, it's going to look worse
And
on your
upscaled.
15-year-old computer.
It's
Like,
probably in 4K or 2K
yeah,
or whatever
exactly.
as well.
It's like, dude, I'm playing on a fucking $2,500 PC and it looks beautiful. I'm sorry that you don't have a good enough computer to make it look good, but you cannot tell me that this game looks like shit. You're just flat out wrong.
Yep.
Like, that's just people fucking hating just for the sake of fucking hating. That's all there is to it. But that state, like, people saying that shit pissed me off so much because it was such a wrong impression that it gave people that, oh, they downgraded it and now it looks like shit. No, your 15-year-old fucking computer looks like shit, okay? Not the game itself.
Yep.
I mean, it's still, regardless of how good your computer is, that game was like compressed and it didn't. Like, I'm not saying it's ugly. I'm just saying it does not. The final product was not as attractive as.
Well, no,
what
and
was
it's never
advertised.
going to be unless you have a fucking $10,000 supercomputer
Well,
and can
and yeah.
upscale it and all of that.
Yeah, I feel like that's another subject, but I don't think that that's honest for Ubisoft to say this is what the game's going to look like, and then not give us that. Like that, I feel like that's a little bit this. They did the same thing with Siege. They did the same thing with fucking Watch Dogs. Like, it's not you're showing one thing and then doing another, and I think that's kind of dishonest.
I still don't understand why graphics play such a massive role in people's choice to buy a game when you're the whole point of the game is to play the game. Like, yes, it's a nice side thing to have good graphics, but why is that what people base their purchases on?
Well, because the developer is saying, look at how gorgeous our game is. Look at how beautiful this is.
Yeah,
And then you get
and-
it, and it's like, by the way,
But I'm
it's actually
sitting
not
in
quite
but
doesn't
I'm
look
sitting in
that.
E3 being like, yeah, that's great. It looks fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I love the way this fucking looks, but how does it play?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand both sides of that, and I can understand, saying, well, it doesn't look like what you showed me. Yes, but it's also the aspect of, did you genuinely believe it was going to look like that on your computer? Do you honestly think that the absolute top of the line, biggest, baddest game being shown at E3 is going to look that good on your computer? Do
Well, I
you
knew I wasn't.
genuinely
Yeah,
believe that going into that purchase? Because
I knew I wouldn't.
if you do, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah,
You
yeah. I
know,
mean, I have a potato. Like, there's no way in hell that that game would ever
yeah,
be
or like
stable.
Heckman says on a console, for somebody on a console to say, well, it doesn't look like what they showed. Like, you have to use your brain a little bit. You have to be realistic in your thought process there. So I can understand definitely both sides saying, hey, this isn't even on a top of the line PC, this isn't what it looks like for me. Yes, it still looks good, but it doesn't look like what you guys showed me. But at the same time, I can't take that argument, and this isn't to bag on you, Luster, because you're on a laptop, but I can't take that argument from someone that's got, a laptop or a console or whatever and
Sure.
saying, hey, this doesn't look like this. Well, of course it doesn't, motherfucker. You're playing on something that cost as much as what a video card would cost to be able to make it look like that.
Right.
So,
Right.
it doesn't hold the weight. But I
Well,
can understand being upset and not necessarily betrayed, but like, hey, why would you, say that it's going to look like this when in actuality it's not?
well, it's like it's honestly like specifically with Ubisoft. I think that's like and again it goes back to me saying I think it's dishonest. I think it's a bait and switch thing, specifically with Watch Dogs because yes, the Division, while it didn't look as good as the trailer, which is fine, it still was a very pretty game. I think Heaven said it in chat. It's a very aesthetically it's a very attractive game. Watch Dogs, however, is not an attractive game, the finished product. But what was advertised, it's literally like you being lured into a brothel, and it's just a bunch of fucking like you get
Dudes.
lured in by a 10, and there's like a bunch of fucking like twos in there.
It's
It's like
Bangkok and it's just a bunch of fucking
yeah,
she dudes.
yeah. I'm not saying that for me. I'm coming from a generation that grew up playing fucking like I had an NES and the graphics aren't. I still play Doom. Like I go out of my way to download mods to play the original Doom. Graphics aren't shit to me, but don't lie to me is my point. Don't show me one thing and then hand me something else. Don't show me an iPhone and hand me a fucking 1967 like fucking you know what I mean Walkman is my point.
Right. Yeah, and I can understand that, and I think they would save themselves a lot of fucking trouble if they, just said like gave the system specs of what they're playing this on and said and didn't, upscale it and make it super fucking beautiful and just played it on a legit machine. Yeah, fine, play it on a $10,000 rig that's got 4 Titan X's in it. That's fine, but say that's what you're doing, And, you know, exact like what Heckman is saying, it's not just Ubisoft. A lot of
Right.
game developers are guilty of this. Um, but yeah, I agree. It is lying somewhat that they don't say, well, this is what we've done to make it look this good for this, conference. No problem with them upscaling it and shit like that and making it beyond what it is. But come out and say that. Say, hey, we
Yeah.
fucking beautified this for you guys because you're watching it on a fucking 100-inch screen,
Right.
Um, and
Colonial Marine's another one.
oh yeah,
That
that's a
whole
big one.
debacle, and that was bad. That wasn't
Yeah.
just simply my computer's not good enough to run this. They fucking flat out just did. That's not what we got. That's
Yeah.
it's just not.
Yeah, that was just fucking pieces of shit. But speaking of E3, and I know we're already at the 2-hour mark, but fuck it, we haven't been.
In 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks, so we're fucking trudging on.
We'll do it
So
live.
Woo-hoo.
yeah,
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Fucking thing sucks.
yeah, and I'm not in too much fucking pain, so we'll keep it going. So
Recompress
speaking
your wrap.
of E3, I actually should here in a minute, and I'll let you guys talk while I fucking go ahead. Sid, tighten this up
Yeah,
for me real quick.
Let someone else take the reins if you want.
Yeah. So speaking of E3, there was recently a leak on Walmart Canada's online store that has given us a look at some of the upcoming games, including The Last of Us 2, Just Cause 4, Gears of War 5, Rage 2, new Assassin's Creed, a new Splinter Cell, Forza Horizon 5, which I actually believe is a typo, because there isn't even a Forza Horizon 4, so I think, that was supposed to be Forza Horizon 5, Borderlands 3, and Destiny Comet. Comet
Half-Life
being yes, and yeah, and Destiny Comet being a code word that was used in Destiny 1 for major DLC. So they're suspecting right now that there's going to be an announce of a major Destiny 2 DLC that's going to be basically game changing. So Just Cause 4, Gears of War 5, Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, Forza Horizon, really no surprise with any of those. Like I said, Forza Horizon, I think that's just a typo. It's going to be Forza Horizon 4. Just Cause 4, not a surprise. Just Cause 3 was pretty popular. Gears of War 5, again, not a surprise. While 4 wasn't hugely popular, it still did decent. Assassin's Creed, no brainer, because Assassin's Creed Origin did very well. Splinter Cell, no surprise at all. We know there's a Splinter Cell movie coming out. I wouldn't be surprised at fucking all if the game comes out right after the movie is released. And then Borderlands 3, that's been getting hinted at by the Borderlands developers for months now.
Randy's
know
been
that's
teasing
coming.
it.
Yeah, Randy has been fucking all. We're working on the thing that we think you guys want us working on the most. It's fucking Borderlands 3. We now know that.
It should be fucking Brothers in Arms, asshole.
Yeah, that's probably never gonna happen.
Fucking asshole.
So Borderlands 3, yeah, no surprise. It's a welcome, not really surprise, but it's welcome. So Rage 2 is really what surprised everybody, because Rage 1 was developed by id Software, as it made Doom.
Some of the guys that
yeah, some of the guys.
Carmack, I think is or is it Romero?
No, Carmack. I think Carmack's still there. He's the one that's still there.
Yeah, I think he's the only one, right?
Yeah, because Romero went off to do his own shit.
Dude, he did Oculus, I think.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
So Rage 1 was basically a fast-paced post-apocalyptic shooter. I personally never played it. It wasn't anything super special. I've seen it on Steam on sale a fuck ton of times and thought about picking it up, just never have. So a lot of people were expecting the next Bethesda, /id game to be a follow-up to Doom, because this last Doom was very, very successful.
Yep.
Critically acclaimed. Everybody loved it. They were like, Bethesda's getting back to their roots, or id is getting back to their roots.
Yep.
So everybody was expecting this to be Doom 2.
Bethesda also hinted at that as well.
Yeah.
They tweeted, I believe, or they said in an interview that this cycle has been hell on earth for us. Well, Doom 2's original subtitle was Hell on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we all, I thought, holy fuck, we're getting another Doom.
Yeah, everybody that's seen that Hell on Earth line immediately thought Doom 2. And we were like, holy shit, we're going to get Doom 2 and Ultimate Doom, and yeah. So, again, big surprise that Rage 2 was on that list. So, again, this is from a picture that somebody tweeted. They, for whatever reason, were browsing Walmart Canada's online store and seen this list of games, grabbed a screenshot real quick and put it up on Twitter. Now, this very well could be a very elaborate hoax by somebody. Wouldn't be the fucking first time. But thanks to some responses on Twitter, this list is looking more and more justified, right? And if anybody's already seen the news from this stuff, you already know what's going on. But anyways, the Rage and Bethesda accounts basically responded to this. Now, the Rage Twitter account had been inactive. It was created in 2009. Now, the only tweet on there right after this was in response to that picture they circled it and, basically made fun of it, saying that that's not the right font and this and that. And the marketing boss from Bethesda responded to it saying, "This is why we can't have nice things." Now, since then, Walmart Canada has removed all of those pictures, that whole list of games. You can't see it anymore. And you could technically pre-order those games at the time. They were for sale. I couldn't find any reports of anyone actually ordering it while it was still up. So it seems as though they were able to pull the shit down before anybody realized what was going on and, got rid of it. But since all of this has gone down, Rage 2 was officially announced on the 14th, so just the other day, with a trailer. And the trailer looks pretty. To me, it looks very much so like a mix between Doom and Mad Max. It's got that post-apocalyptic look of Mad Max, as well as the vehicle combat and stuff like that. Obviously, a little bit more advanced, as Mad Max is a little bit older now, which, by the way, if you haven't played the latest Mad Max game, is a very fun game. It's a little repetitive, but it is fun. But it's got very much so the gameplay style of Doom. It's very fast-paced, kind of in your face. And it's got the style of Borderlands, but it's realistic as opposed to cartoony. So it looks very pretty. I like the look of the trailer. But they also said that there will be more surprises shown at E3. So I don't know if they're saying there's going to be more surprises related to Rage 2, or if Bethesda is saying that's not all we're working on, which is really my hope. I really hope it's Bethesda saying, yeah, we kind of had to announce Rage 2 because it got leaked, and we might as well come out and fucking tell you guys what's going on. And it also kind of
5 probably
right, but it also kind of plays into their hand, and is like, oh yeah, damn, it got leaked. Oh, by the way, there's more surprises coming. So now that just helps them kind of build more hype around Bethesda's press conference of, okay, what the fuck is this other stuff they're gonna. But if you haven't seen the trailer, it's up on YouTube. Very, very easy to find. I watched the trailer. Like I said, it looks pretty. The art style of it is cool. It looks a lot like Mad Max, just massive draw distances. A lot of what they show is out in the desert. Apparently, there's also forests and jungle, stuff like that. So multiple different kind of terrains, much like Wildlands was. But it looks like it's going to be very, very, very fucking big. A lot like Far Cry 5 and stuff like that. But overall, personally, I wasn't impressed with the trailer itself. Like, it didn't, nothing really captured me. Like, I seen it, and I immediately, that was my thought was, okay, this is Doom meets Mad Max. There's nothing new here. There's nothing that impresses me. It doesn't look like a game that I've never played before. What about, have you guys watched the trailer at all?
Yeah.
What did you think of it, Loster?
Same thing. I mean, if you look at the because there's the gameplay trailer. If you look at how the weapons fire and everything, I mean, that's literally that's Doom.
Yeah.
Like it's just
it's almost a carbon copy of Doom.
Yeah, like I know that's kind of a weird thing to notice, but I'm weird. And
I noticed it with the shotgun.
Yeah, like the way that he holds the weapon, and that's the same animation that the weapons that you fire in Doom. And that's not a bad thing.
No, the gunplay in Doom is great. It's just I've already done that. I need something more, like we were talking about, earlier with fucking lipstick on a pig.
Yeah,
it's fine if the next pig is fucking 400 pounds instead of 200. Like, you have to add something.
Right, and I have a feeling they might be going for a bit of a more, because Rage was kind of a serious game.
Yeah.
This feels more playful. This feels
it's got a lot more Borderlands feel
like
to
jovial. It. Yeah. Like, hey, it's fun, destroy everything. Which again, Far Cry 5 was like that. It wasn't bad. It's just I'm not excited for for id games. It seemed it what's the words I'm looking for? Id kind of fell apart after Quake because people Romero left. Fucking or no, Romero left during Doom 2, I think, or whatever. But Romero left, Sandy Peterson left. Like it's like the people that made those games what they are.
Yeah, the founders basically, aside from
Yeah,
Carmack, left.
yeah, aren't there anymore, and their id's idea of innovation. eh, Doom 3 wasn't a bad game, but it didn't feel like a Doom game either. Like
Yeah, that Doom 3 is one of the, I enjoyed Doom 3, but it wasn't a Doom game. It was a horror survival game. It wasn't Doom.
right. It could have been called anything else.
Yeah, it could have been called fucking Space Marine or some shit,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
would have been.
Divide
It would
Mars.
have. Yeah, it would have made more sense than Doom 3.
Yeah. And then Rage is like, with the exception of Wolfenstein's good. Wolfenstein 2 was good. I was very, very happy with Wolfenstein. I was very, very happy with Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. That felt really fucking good. I loved feeling like I felt like I was playing Wolfenstein again. Obviously not quite as much, but it still felt like a Wolfenstein game. Doom 4, Doom fucking feels like a Doom game. I'm just worried that that's like, is that all that they can do? Is just rehash,
Right. They're
like,
not doing anything innovative.
right? There was Quake Champions, which, whatever. I'm not an arena guy, so
Yeah.
I mean, I want to play Quake or Quake 2. I want to play those games. I don't want to play Quake 3 Arena. I'll pass. But like I just feel like they're not creating anything new anymore. Maybe Rage 2 will be something different, but it just feels like, hey, here's Doom, and here's a car, and we took out all the walls, so just go wherever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it looks like to me. Like I say, it's just, it's Doom meets Mad Max. That's the only thing I can really equate it to, and it doesn't bring anything new so far. Maybe if they would have taken the horrible fucking base building aspect from Fallout 4 and work that into this, improving that system, maybe that would have been enough to make this different. But then it would have been, okay, yeah, I can see that this is all things that they have done before, but they've improved upon each one. That that would make it better to me. They could have said, yeah, this is a post-apocalyptic, very fast-paced shooter, but it's about surviving and about building your base and protecting it against raiders and stuff like that. That I could get behind a little bit more than just run and gun and cause chaos and destruction. Done that.
Far Cry 5.
And,
Yeah.
Granted, this game probably went into development well before Far Cry 5 was.
Yeah.
So it's not like they would know, okay, well, shit, Far Cry 5 is getting ready to do this exact same thing, so we have to do something else. And I don't think a lot of people take that into account, just how long it actually takes to make a video game. When you look at God of War, that took 5 years for these guys to make, and in actuality, that's not really that bad. Everybody has it kind of stuck in their head that you make a game every year because of Call of Duty and shit, and because of Battlefield. They think, oh, well, it only takes a year to make a game. Yeah, it only takes a year to make a game when you're reusing 99% of the assets. When you have to build everything from scratch, you're talking, 5, 6, 10 years to make a single fucking video game.
Dude Nukem Forever.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot the same with. It's a lot the same with like movies. Like the past few nights, I've been watching the Lord of the Ring appendices, which is like extra bonus content. Basically the making of the Fellowship of the Ring. And when you hear those guys talking about when they were building Hobbiton, where all the hobbits live, and they were asking Peter Jackson, well, when do you want us to start construction on this place once they found the actual site for it? And he's like, if we start like a year before filming, that should probably be good, maybe a little bit sooner. A year before they even started filming a 15-month shoot, is when they started construction on this place that's in the movie for fucking 30 minutes.
If that, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so when you think about that kind of shit, and that does, you know, very closely directly correlate to games, because you have to fucking, whether it be pencil drawings or in a computer, draw all these characters and all these assets and then create them and stuff. Like, it's understandable that it takes that long to make a game. So back to the original point, basically, there's no way that they would have had any idea that Far Cry 5 was gonna do basically what they're about to do, but in Montana instead of the fucking desert in the post-apocalypse. So, I mean, overall, like I said, if you want to watch the trailer, it's out there online, very easy to find. I personally wasn't impressed. Maybe I'll pick it up, maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very much so on the fence. Now, on the other hand, one of the other games announced in Splinter Cell, pretty fucking excited for that. Again, not a huge surprise because we know there's a Splinter Cell movie coming with, pretty sure it was Tom Hardy that's supposed to be playing Sam Fisher, I believe. So not a big surprise on that. What I am anxious to find out is whether or not they're going to have, because he's doing the movie, whether or not they're going to have Tom Hardy do the voice for Sam Fisher, or if they're going to bring Ironside back, because Ironside just came back to do the voice for Sam in the update with fucking Wildlands or whatever. So he is kind of back in that circle of all those people. So I'm anxious to see, you know, you're going to bring old Michael Ironside back and give him another fucking shot at it.
Great.
Yes, I would be so fucking happy.
Uh,
But
where's my
I think
daughter?
I think more likely, because of the movie and because of them probably wanting to link the game to the movie, they're gonna have Tom Hardy do the, which isn't horrible. I mean, Tom Hardy's good actor. I like him as an actor. He's got a, you know, recognizable voice and shit. But I would still prefer to see Michael Ironside do it because he is fucking Sam Fisher.
He is Sam Fisher.
You guys do know that Michael Ironside made the cameo in Wildlands, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They just brought him back to do the voice for that update
Right.
to Wildlands. So he is in that circle. You know, they haven't fucking forgotten about him, which is the one kind of straw of hope that I have, that they've brought him back to do the game. And maybe that's, you know, because this game is being announced at E3 by all, you know, reports that we're seeing, maybe that's why they brought him back to do the voice for that, because they already fucking had him there doing the voice for the new game, and we're like, hey, by the way, can you read these 2 pages of fucking dialogue that we can throw in Wildlands real quick? That's what I'm hoping.
Hope we get Bane Fisher. That'd be great.
Oh, God.
You know, I'm looking at Ironside is 68 years old right now. I wonder, like, if he would be even capable of doing the movie.
Oh, absolutely. Ironside's a fucking badass. If
Don't
he
get me
can't do
wrong,
the job, I mean, he'll do the job until he's dead or they find someone better.
I am the League of Shadows.
No, see, when I think of Hardy doing Sam Fisher, I liken it more to the character he played in Warrior. Kind of quiet, reserved, you know, not really, like, he speaks in a whisper almost the entire fucking movie. And I see that being more style of character of Sam Fisher that he play. But again, I hope it's not Tom Hardy. I hope that it's Michael Ironside. And like I said, the whole reason that he was able to do the Wildlands thing is because he was already in the fucking studio doing the voiceover work for the new. But we'll see. So now that we're almost a half hour beyond, we finally got to the last story, and that was one that popped up right before we went live on the podcast, and I was like, holy shit, I gotta go over this tonight because it's something that's important to fucking all of us. The Senate voted today on net neutrality, something that I sure as shit wasn't expecting. I didn't even know they were putting it forth for a vote. Nothing. So So they voted 52 to 47 to disapprove the FCC's recent order replacing 2015's net neutrality rule, which is a pleasant surprise to internet advocates and consumers throughout the country. Although the disapproval will almost certainly not lead to the new rules being undone, it is a powerful statement of solidarity with the consistency activated against this deeply unpopular order. Basically, what all that long fucking bullshit means, Senate voted today in favor of disapproving what the FCC had overturned last year for net neutrality.
Yeah, fuck you, Ajit
Yeah.
Pai.
So this doesn't mean that net neutrality is coming back. It doesn't mean that the FCC is getting overturned. That's not what this means. What this means is that now that the Senate has voted on it, it goes to the House. The House votes on it, and should the House approve it, then it goes to the President. That's when it gets important. The President signs it and says, yeah, this is not right. Now the FCC has some serious fucking work to do, because the FCC is a government body. So when the fucking chief comes up and says, this is wrong, now, again, they don't have to change it. That's not, unless he signs an executive order saying you have to change this. They don't have to change it, but they're also looking at the fact now the fucking commander-in-chief is not happy with this. The Senate is not happy with this. The House is not happy with this. Do I like my job? Yes. Do I like my multi-$100,000 a year fucking pay? Yes. We should probably change this ruling that we made getting rid of net neutrality. That's all this means. So it is not that being overturned, the FCC has to change their ruling, and none of that. Nobody's being forced to do shit. As Axial said there in chat, it's basically a very strongly worded letter to say, hey, better unfuck this shit.
It's Hans Blix rolling up. Hans Bricks.
So basically, Senate Joint Resolution number 52 officially disapproves the rule under the Congressional Review Act, which allows Congress to undo recently created rules by federal agencies. So it will have to pass the House as well as then be signed by the President for the old rules to be restored. Okay? So what this is saying is that because of Senate Joint Resolution 52, technically they can force the FCC to overturn this. Okay, so this is not them making the FCC do anything right now. But because of this Joint Resolution 52, should the Senate, the House, and the President sign it, they can, by rights, force the FCC to change their ruling because they are a government body. And that's something that the FCC seems to fucking forget. Most predominantly, their fucking chairman, who's a piece of shit. So
Thinks he's cool with his fucking Reese cup mug. Shina can tell him where you can shove that mug.
I want a Reese cup mug.
yeah,
Do you have to be the chairman to get it one?
I don't know. You
Probably.
can make some really shitty internet videos and maybe get one.
I've
So
already made plenty
basically,
of those.
forcing everyone in Congress to officially weigh in on this, which is what's happening now. It's gonna make it an issue for the upcoming midterms. And normally I don't fucking get involved in politics at all, but again, this is something that is very fucking important to all of us. So basically every candidate in midterms is gonna be hearing the question, do you support net neutrality? I mean, it's gonna be one of the very fucking hot topics. So until yesterday, Senate Democrats who brought the resolution to the Senate only had 50 supporters, including one Republican. More than enough to force the issue to be voted on, but not enough to actually pass the resolution. Well, two more Republicans hopped on board to vote yes on the measure, making it officially 52 to 47, meaning somebody fucking, they jumped ship basically from what the rest of the Republicans were doing.
Somebody held their family hostage.
Yeah, pretty much. And the Senate Minority Leader, Dianne Feinstein, said that we salute them for their courage, which that statement is cunt if you think that's courage. Like, you have a severely distorted world fucking view. You think supporting something as, basically trivial as net neutrality is courage, fuck off. Like, you're one of those same people that should be fucking ripped apart, like the fucking, that story I seen about somebody saying that one of the Jenners or some shit was courageous for eating before a fucking fashion show or some shit. Like, you people need a genuine fucking lesson in what courageous means. Anyways, the FCC Commissioner Jessica Rosenworcel, I know I'm butchering her name, commended the Senate's action. Now, this is someone in the FCC. This was a supporter of net neutrality. This is someone who voted against the FCC overturning it. This is one of the commissioners. She stated that today the United States Senate took a big step to fix the serious mess the FCC made. So, again, this is someone within the FCC saying the FCC fucked up. So, fix the serious mess the FCC made when it rolled back the net neutrality late last year. She said in a statement, today's vote is a sign that the fight for internet freedom is far from over, and I'll keep raising a ruckus to support net neutrality, and I hope others will too. Yes.
She was one of two, because I think the vote was 3-2 to pass in the FCC. She was one of two, and I think there was a third. The third one was on the fence, but eventually she just kind of like kissed a dude's
gave
ass hardcore.
So, one of the other chairmans, we are very much huge fan of, with lots of sarcasm there. Ajit Pai, however, was less congratulatory in his own statement because he's a fucking piece of shit. He said, it's disappointing that Senate Democrats forced this resolution through by a narrow margin, he said. But ultimately, I'm confident that their effort to reinstate heavy-handed government regulation of the internet will fail. Heavy-handed government regulation. This fucking cockbag doesn't even realize that he is a part of the fucking government he is talking about. Again, the FCC is a federal fucking organization. Are you shitting me?
Here's my problem.
My problem I'm hurting is that again.
He's obviously seeing that the choice that he made and the resolution he passed is wrong, and the American people have spoken. Now that the people who we have elected into the Senate now show that majority, we don't fucking want it. And now he's saying, even now, that it's like, oh, it's the Senate Democrats. Well, yeah, the Senate Democrats that we fucking put there,
right,
to make the votes on this shit that we want.
And the thing to point out here is the reason it's such a big deal that multiple Republicans decided to go in favor of this in the Senate and put it to the House is historically Republican, all about free market, make money where you can make money, so on and so forth. That's fine, whatever. They realize that this is fucking wrong for internet companies to be able to control this service, to be able to restrict this service. So that's why they have jumped ship here. And again, for this fucking cockbag to say that this is heavy-handed government regulation, motherfucker, this is the government that you work for, that you are a part of. It is something that you are there to fucking carry out the orders of this government. So, I mean, I don't get his mentality other than the fact that he knows goddamn well he's probably going to be losing his job very fucking soon, which means that nice fucking house that he's got and that fucking Mercedes that he's getting driven around in isn't going to last for very long.
I hope somebody breaks his fucking mug on his way out.
Right. So, in in response to this, House Representative Mike Doyle, who has been working on the corresponding effort in the House, said he is taking the next step, saying, with the majority leadership in the House opposed to this bill, the only way to bring it before the full House for a vote is through a discharge petition. Under the rules of the House, a bill must be brought to the House floor for a vote if a majority of representatives sign a discharge petition demanding it. I'm filing a discharge petition to force a vote on the legislation to save net neutrality, and we just need to get the majority of representatives to sign it. I'm sure that every member of the House will want to know where their constituents stand on this issue. Basically, what he's saying is, Senate passed it, yes. We are not going to be able to do shit all about it unless the majority of the House wants to bring it to a vote. So just because the Senate passed it doesn't mean the House is going to vote on it. The House has to have a majority of the representatives bring it forward to a vote, just like the Senate did. And that line, I'm sure that every member of the House will want to know where their constituents stand on this issue. That is him very fucking cleverly saying, you need to call, you need to write to your representatives saying, I support net neutrality, so on. I know you guys seen a bunch of that when the vote was initially going forward to the FCC to call and write into your representatives saying that, you know, you support net neutrality, you don't want it to end, this and that, when in actuality, there wasn't dick all that the House or Senate could do at the time. The FCC, they are a government body, but they come up with their own rulings. Now we are seeing the response to all those letters and phone calls that people made. At the time, there was absolutely nothing that the House or Senate could do to stop their ruling from going through. All they can do is react to it. That's what's happening now. The Senate has now reacted to that ruling going through. Now it's on the House to react to it. But again, the House won't do shit with it unless the majority of them put it for a vote. Now, as he said, the majority right now are opposed to this bill. So that means it's going to take a fuck ton of people calling and writing saying, hey, motherfucker, I put you in that cushy leather chair. Do my bidding, minion. Which is exactly what a fucking House representative is there to do. The bidding of his constituents. That means you have to call, you have to write your representative and say, you know, I support this. And hopefully, after thousands upon thousands of fucking letters get thrown on their desk, they'll fucking get the picture. I know I personally am going to be doing exactly that. Mostly so that I do not continue getting raped even more by fucking Cockcast, because they're one of the worst companies on the fucking planet, and they are my only fucking option for internet service. Which means if this net neutrality shit continues to be gone as time goes, Comcast being fucking Comcast is going to further and further fucking rape people, even more so than they do, and start restricting access to websites and restricting speeds even more than they already do, and want to charge us money to access certain fucking websites and so on, and get the fucking speeds that we should have anyways. You know, so it is something that's very fucking important to me, obviously, given my job, but you know, it's something that hopefully is important to all you guys too, considering you fucking watch me do my job. So what do you guys think? I'm gonna get this thing tightened back up and you guys fucking let loose.
I'll put you're obviously way more informed than I am, Patty. So I I'm the typical like fat American idiot that just eats bacon. So you can go right ahead and take this one because I don't know shit about it.
It's okay. The bacon-eating Americans are important too.
Yeah, like I'm vaguely familiar with net neutrality. You know, I understand why like people are opposed to it, but I'm not in a position to voice a strong opinion one way or another.
I'm under the impression that I mean, basically, if I can pull any more control from the cable companies that provide my ISP, I'm gonna do it because I they already destroy me when it comes to my bill for what I get. So basically, them having the power to, throttle me any further than they already do is, all power to me. But I think the internet's just been that untouchable thing for the past, well, it was the 80s, late 80s, early 90s ish, that like no one tried to put a leash around. No one tried to, um censor everything. Like you could find anything you wanted on the internet, and you could do it at whatever speed or whatever thing you were paying for, and you always knew that that's what you were going to get at that speed. And the idea that they could start throttling individual internet sites, it's just like, why, you monsters? The idea
Right.
that, like, Netflix, if I had to pay attention to what internet service provider I'd get, because maybe the internet service provider competes with Netflix or something, and all
Right.
of a sudden I can only get Hulu at a decent speed, but Netflix is going to be
Right.
buffering
Okay.
for the entirety.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, right now the internet as it is, ISPs allow you, basically the internet is this, big playground, and the ISPs hold, like, they give you a key to open the gate to go into the playground, but they have, with net neutrality, if they could say, okay, well, here's the key, you already paid your price for the key, but you can only go play on that ride, or you can only go
Yeah,
go on that
basically,
slide.
Or if
they
you're going to
can.
slide down that slide, you can only go like at a butt crawl speed.
Okay.
Yeah, they basically get to change the height limit for rides per person,
Okay.
and you have to pay more if you want that fucking height lowered to
You
your
want fast
standards.
pass.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So they
Gotcha.
can limit what sites you can access. Say, oh, you want to be able to go on Facebook? That's an extra $5 a month. So, like, that's why so many people are opposed to it. Because they can, say, go into a partnership with Netflix, Comcast, or Time Warner could go into a partnership and with Comcast or with Netflix and say, hey, we're going to give you guys, 30% of whatever we earn if you let us, fucking go into a partnership with you and give solely us access to Netflix. Which then Comcast could say, we're the only internet service provider in the US that has access to Netflix. You want Netflix? You have to come to us. And you pay us an extra $15 a month for access to Netflix.
And because Netflix is a direct competitor with Hulu, they probably won't offer you Hulu.
Exactly.
Or if you want to try to get to Hulu, they're going to throttle you back on speed accessing the site for Hulu.
Right. Well, it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's shit all around.
Fucking monsters.
Yeah. Anyways, Senate has, basically disapproved it. Now, hopefully, it is going to go to the House for a vote. Again, that's going to depend on, them getting the majority of representatives to call it to a vote, and that's going to, require us to contact representatives and say, hey, make this fucking happen, motherfucker, or we will remove you. And that's what it's going to take. And then, after that, it goes to the president. And I'm not going to get involved on the fucking politics of whether or not Trump will sign it. I'm not going to fucking open that goddamn can of worms. But
Be here for
let's
another
hope
3
he
hours.
does. Right. So, actually, the last news story on that I want to cover tonight is something that was very recently brought up to me that I didn't write down here, mostly because I forgot and just reminded of it because of my bot. And what you guys just seen my bot post in the chat there. So, as it says there, many of you know where I'm from. And there was recently a story by one of our local fucking news channels saying a lot of people wondered why Nestle was approved for an increase in their water pumping from one of our water aquifers, which a lot of people were pissed about. Everybody here fucking hates Nestle because they are raping our fucking water. They are pumping hundreds of thousands of fresh water out of Michigan. while places like Flint are sitting here with still unusable water. Still, after it was supposedly fixed, is rated very poor by the EPA. So, this news story ran saying, people were wondering why Nestle was approved to increase their water pumping and this and that, on top of the fact that, people are already pissed that they're pulling all this water out of Michigan that could be used here. The state of Michigan already pays the third highest water bill in the entirety of the U.S. And that's with 4 cities rated poor or it's I think sustainable to poor. Sustainable being a little bit better. 4 cities rated sustainable to poor as far as water quality, and we pay the third highest water bill in the nation. The average water bill in the state of Michigan is $200. I can tell you from personal experience, yes, I can tell you from personal experience that my water bill for quite a long time was $300 plus. That's on top of the fact that in the city of Flint, you have to pay a $375 deposit, quote unquote, to even get your water turned on. Now, this is a deposit that you never get back, so it's not a fucking deposit. It's $375. You just flat out have to pay to get your water turned on in the first. It's not a fucking deposit. You never get it back. So, on average, a bill in Michigan for water is $200 a month. Nestle, guess how much they pay to pump hundreds of thousands of gallons of water a year out of Michigan? 40,000 gallons a minute. So it's actually millions of gallons of water they pump out of Michigan a year. Guess how much they pay a year for their water? Come on.
Less than $1,000.
Much less.
Probably less than what you're paying monthly for your water bill.
$200 a year.
Holy fucking shit.
$200 a year for a couple million gallons of fresh, drinkable water.
Bro, are you gonna have to? Like I said, I'm a fat American who eats bacon. You have to explain this to me. Your state has a lake named after it. Why don't you have water?
We do. It's
What's-
being pumped out by the fucking Nestle
What
Corporation.
the fuck? That's horrible.
And when it's pumped in specifically to the state of Flint, or the city of Flint, it is dirtied by their horrible fucking pipe system.
Yeah, that have now been replaced. Well, it doesn't matter when you replace the main pipes, considering now every fucking pipe in the houses have been fucking tainted by this lead.
Oh man.
So that is why the water is still rated as poor by the EPA, as in not suggested for bodily consumption. Yeah.
Insane.
So, on top of this, again, this news story came out on a local news station. People were fucking pissed off that Nestle was approved to increase their pumping rates to 40,000 gallons a minute while all of this shit is going down in Flint. And they said, well, this is why it got approved. And it turns out that Nestle, very generously, is going to be donating 10,000 bottles of water a week to the city of Flint because the state of Michigan has shut down their water distribution centers, which, as you can see in my post there. However, they are not doing that because the water pump, they were approved to pump more water out of the state of Michigan. Some investigative fucking reporters found out that program was approved 3 months before the approval of their increase in water. So whether or not they got approved to increase the amount of water they were pumping out of Michigan or not, they were going to be donating this 10,000 bottles of water a week to the city of Flint, no matter what. So the fact that they got approved for increased amounts of water pumped out has no bearing on it whatsoever. They're completely fucking unrelated. and then think, okay, well, that's great. At least they are donating, which is great. It is fucking needed, obviously. I mean, I'm fucking trying to help out. So it's obviously needed because the state won't fund aid anymore. They will not donate any more water to the city. So it's needed. I mean, it's a shitty situation, but it's needed. So obviously we can't just turn away the water because they're assholes of a company. Can't do it. But 40,000 gallons a minute is what they pump out of the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much or how long do you think it takes them to get the water they need to donate 10,000 bottles of water a week to the city of Flint?
Well,
10 minutes.
no, not even that, because the
Not even
bottled
that.
water, they're not gallon bottles. They're
Yeah,
just
it's 16.9 ounces.
Yeah, you can. That's
They-
like 30. That's like 30
Yeah,
seconds.
they
of
pump that in
water.
less than a minute.
Yeah.
The amount of water that they're donating to the city is pumped out of the state in less than a minute.
Pumped
Like
up from
I
where,
said-
but may I ask?
Natural aquifers inland. They don't pump it out of the lakes. You can't. The lake water is way too polluted to be able to use it. For hundreds of years of shipping, the lake water is no. It would take.
Thanks, Detroit.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, not just Detroit. I mean, Detroit, Canada. Everybody has
Yeah.
used the Great Lakes shipping lane for centuries.
Yeah.
So it's just it is technically fresh water, but it's not drinkable fresh water.
No. Lake Erie isn't either.
No. But we have thousands and thousands of inland freshwater lakes that are usable and underground aquifers that are usable. So, it's like I said, it is good that they're donating this water. It's very much so fucking needed. But like, it pisses me off that they're painting them out to be heroes donating this water when on the back side of it you're making fucking 1,000 times that on what you're pulling out of here, and you're making it out like that's why you got to pull all this extra water because you're donating it to the city that needs. No, that's not the fucking case. Like it's a drop in a bucket, literally. Yeah, so that's the end of my rant on that. And fucking bullshit situation, and it boggles my mind that it is something that is dealt with in this is something you would expect to hear going on in like fucking Zimbabwe somewhere or some shit, or in some third world fucking country, not in what used to be the automotive fucking capital of the world.
Is this a state problem or like just a Flint and surrounding area problem?
It is somewhat a statewide problem. Like I said, there's 4 cities that are rated as moderate or whatever to poor. So it's not solely Flint. Detroit is pretty bad too. Saginaw is pretty bad. But Flint is the worst, hands down, by a long ways.
Is it a shortage of water, or is it just your water is tainted because of shitty filtration and pipes and shit like that?
Both. It's not having the pipes themselves in the houses are now tainted because of hooking up to 60-year-old pipes that hadn't been used in 60 years and contaminating all of that pipe and that water carrying all those contaminants into the household. All those main pipes have been replaced, but on top of that, there is only one source of receiving water, and that is the Detroit River, which isn't a clean quality source of water.
It doesn't even sound like a clean source of
it's
water.
Not.
The Detroit River.
And that's the only source for water. Because the other sources are being used by companies like Nestle and Pepsi and Coca-Cola and shit like they're pretty much every major drinks company, every major like bottling company has factories, pumping facilities here in the state of Michigan because we're one of the largest sources for natural fresh water. It's like us and Minnesota. Like they're like the 2 biggest fucking ones.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah, Minnesota.
that's, we only have one source because everything else is fucking owned by corporations.
So let me ask this question then, because now I'm curious. If if it's the pipes now leading into the houses, not the water mains, but it's the pipes that are branching off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Would it just be like one of those things where, like, if you were to stick, like, if Pure or Brita were to like come in and like outfit every house with a fucking like on the spout filter,
Yeah, they've
or
already
find
done
a
that.
way to like
Filters
outfit
only
those,
last so long.
right? So
Yeah,
it's
'cause
not something that
they
can be
already-
like remedied from like from a home end thing.
No,
Like all the
it-
pipes,
No.
literally
it
every pipe
can-
would have to be replaced.
It can,
but filters
if you
aren't
put-
they're a band-aid.
right, if you put filters on every single faucet, including your shower, then yeah, it's a temporary fix. But is Brita going to provide filters to 100,000 residents for the next 20 years or more while Flint tries to get the money together to replace every pipe in everybody's house within the city limits, which will never happen? Or is it easier for them to throw a couple filters at people for 3-4 years, continue to let the pipes that are now tainted run the water through it, hope for the best, deal with a couple of class action lawsuits, pay out a couple $1 million over the next 10 years while the pipes basically clean themselves as they have fresh water go through it and those contaminants be carried into everybody's body, and just deal with a few wrongful death lawsuits here and there, as opposed to paying, $1 billion to replace the pipes to everybody. It's a simple matter of numbers at that point. Are they gonna, throw out a few filters for $1 million and then pay, $10 million 20 years down the road for some wrongful death lawsuits? Or are they gonna pay $1 billion up front to just replace all the pipes and be decent fucking human beings?
Given our general attitude towards big business, probably go with the latter, or the former, rather, not the latter. The first one, the shitty one.
Yeah, it's, and as Heckman's saying there, if they didn't pump the water out, would it help Flint? Technically, no, because like you said, it's an infrastructure problem. There's no infrastructure in place to get that water from other sources, because the pipes that were hooked up 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever, when all this started, that tainted everything, those pipes were running to the Flint River, which used to be the source of water for the city of Flint. However, once the Flint River got so polluted because of the factories that were around here, all the automotive factories, those pipes were disabled, and it was cheaper to get the water pumped up from Detroit than it was to build all new infrastructure to one of these underground aquifers. Now it's at a point where, like I said, because all these corporations own this land and own the pumping rights to this water, that you can't build an infrastructure to these other fresh sources of water because it's owned by other people. It's not state-owned land anymore. That land has been bought from the state by these different corporations. So at this point, the only option that the city has is, again, either just wait it out and deal with some lawsuits down the road, or spend ridiculous amounts of money that they don't have to fix the problem in every single house, which again, they can't do because they don't have the money. I talked on a podcast a while back how the city has 100 active police personnel. That includes clerks, office personnel, and everything. 100 people total to police a population of 100,000 people. They don't have the money. And the state doesn't have the money, quote unquote, to aid them. But at the same time, it's, obviously a failing not just on the city, but on the state, which is why there's 3 fucking state officials that are now facing jail time because of them covering up the fact that they were told ahead of time this water is not safe for consumption. And now there's, like I said, 3 state officials. One of them, who was the head of environmental something, basically he was like the top of the top when it comes to cover up, of covering all this shit up. He's facing like 15 years in prison for covering all this shit. So it's not just a matter of the city, doesn't have the, or that the city, failed on this. It was all the way up, which is, even the fucking governor is under investigation right now. Like, look, motherfucker, did you know about this too? Because if you knew about this shit, you're looking at jail time as well.
You gonna get flogged, motherfucker.
Yeah, like there's people fucking in the street calling for that dude's head. But yeah, anyways, it's a shitty situation, but I just, the whole reason I brought it up is so that you guys can better understand that, what I'm doing with my goal and why, my bot is putting that message in the chat. A lot of people can't wrap their head around what is actually going on here. And I can understand that completely. Like, to look at it from an outside view, it would just be like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you don't have clean water to drink? Like, it's fucking water. It's free. Like, the only water bill I pay is for the fact that it gets pumped into my house, and I pay like $300 every 3 months. Like, the fuck are you talking about water's a problem?
That's absurd, dude.
No,
Like, you don't think of that when you think of an American city, like, you just don't.
No, like I said, this is something that you would expect to hear about in some third world fucking country, not a place
like Canada.
Yeah, not a place that at one point in time had the highest median income in the entire country. That's no bullshit. During the 60s, when GM was the biggest company in the world, the city of Flint had the highest median income in the entire nation, with an average income of like $62,000 a year. And this is back in the 60s.
Jesus fuck.
That's why, like I've said before, back in the day, like if you worked for GM, you were fucking made. Like, you had the best job on the planet when you worked for GM. Now, the unemployment rate is like 68%. You pay the highest fucking water bills in the nation, pretty much. And, like I said, there's 100 police on the fucking street, not even 100 police on the street. It's, for the past fucking 15 years, has been one of the most dangerous cities in the fucking US. It's just, it's crazy to think how far it has fallen, especially when you know where it was at one point. And like I said, to look at it from the outside, if you were to never mention the name, if you were never to say this is, Flint, Michigan in the US, you would think you're talking about some other fucking country somewhere.
Yeah, Somalia or some shit.
Right. You would never expect this to be happening in the US, but it is. And like I said, anyways, that's why, that post is there and why it's constantly being put up in my chat, and, why I'm doing this. Hopefully that allows you guys to fucking understand a little bit better at what's going on.
That's really insane. Like, you don't have like FEMA, nobody stepping in? Like, really?
Do you remember what happened to Katrina with FEMA?
Yeah, I know, but at least they showed up, though.
Yeah, fucking 3 weeks later.
Yeah, but even though they were late, they still showed up. You think they would at least show up to you? Like,
well, technically they can't show up because this hasn't been considered a fucking state disaster. It is a state of emergency, or was, until they replaced the pipes, and now the state's like, oh no, everything's good now, despite the fucking EPA, the federal government, saying otherwise. Which, by the way, if the federal government's saying otherwise, they should have fucking FEMA stepping in, but they can't because the governor hasn't declared it a state or state of emergency, or not state of emergency, but fucking whatever it was I just said. It's on the governor.
Crisis or whatever.
Yeah, it's on the governor to make that fucking decision, and he hasn't because the state representatives told him, no, everything's good now.
That's nuts.
I'm still really surprised with this whole thing that you guys are even still paying a water bill. Frankly.
Well, people are still having, like, when it was really bad, like when the water was straight up fucking toxic, obviously people didn't have a choice. Like, you still have to use water, you still have to flush a toilet, you still have to, do whatever. You have to fucking shower in the shit because you don't have any other way to fucking shower unless you want to stand there in the shower and have someone dump, 16-ounce bottles of water over your head. You don't have a choice, So, yeah, this entire time, people have still been paying $300+ a month for a water bill for water that they can't or that they shouldn't be using, but they don't have a choice. And I mean, people like their water gets shut off because they can't pay a bill that high because again, unemployment rate is 68 fucking percent. So people can't pay their bills and the water gets shut off. Or like I said, you move into a new house and you want to get the water turned on in your name, you're paying $375. And then you get a bill on top of that for your first month. So you're talking about $700+ for your first month of having water that's technically unusable. It's fucking insane. I know it's insane. Live in it, and I know it's fucking insane. So I can't imagine. Well, I can imagine because I know what it's like to not have to deal with that and say, how in the fuck is that possibly something that? Oh, but it is. Shitty truth, but it is. And very quickly, Taco, thank you a ton for that 10-month resub. Surprised it's been fucking 10 months already. Jesus. But and we've gone fucking way over here by an hour. And all this ranting is fucking hurt. Real quickly, I want to mention, as Patty did mention a little bit ago, are you guys doing the podcast this week, the Safeties Off podcast?
This will be, yes, we will be doing the Safeties Off podcast this week. This will be DJ's final podcast before he becomes a dad.
Before the baby.
Before the baby. He's going to be cutting down his streaming heavily, but he's going to be trying to do the podcast every week with us as a continuation, because it's kind of like that will be his escape from screaming babies and poopy diapers.
Something I can understand very well. And yeah, it has been 11 actually. And Aaron, I completely forgot to thank you at the start of the podcast for that 11-month resub. I'm sorry about that. I completely forget there. But you guys are doing the Safeties Off podcast this Friday at 20:30. Is it going to be on DJ's channel this week, or yours, or Shanks, or
It will. If it was, I think it was DJ's last week, so it'll probably be on Shanks this week.
Okay, so probably on Shank the Noob's channel. Either way, I'll be auto hosting it. So if you guys like this format of guys just kind of hanging around and bullshitting, and honestly, Safeties Off is probably more fucking entertaining considering how fucking worked up Shank can get. It makes me laugh like a little bitch every time because he gets even more worked up than I do, and obviously I can't get all that worked up right now given injuries. So highly recommend going to check that out. Again, I'll be auto hosting it on my channel. That'll be Friday at 20:30, the Safeties Off podcast. I'll be in there fucking talking shit in chat as I am when I'm able to make it. So yeah, make sure you guys go check that out. And Loster, what do you got going on? I know you're still streaming fairly regularly.
Yeah,
what have you got going on lately?
Nightly or like every other night, given my availability. I've been trying to fix my sleep schedule. I'm back on the. I know people that aren't in the 506. Like I posted on the forums that things are kind of on an upswing for me. For like the last several months, I've been staying at home taking care of my wife who had an injury, lost the use of her hand. So I've been staying at home to take care of her, but that comes with no income. So I've been trying to stream pretty regularly. I've been doing a donation drive this month to help with the bills, and I'm in a position now where I can go back to work. And I've been hammering applications. I've had a couple of interviews, nothing yet, but I'm working on it. But in the meantime, I've been trying to stream pretty regularly to just stay in touch with people. I stream 4 or 5 hours a night. Lately, it's been like Hearts of Iron. I kind of got back into that. PC Building Simulator just updated.
Yeah, I seen you were just playing that right before we went live.
Yeah. PC Building Simulator just updated, so I'm probably gonna stream that tonight.
I'll
But
probably
yeah.
watch that.
But yeah, I've been hammering my stream, just pushing for support, donations, and everyone who's helped out has been like a huge help. Some of the like Aaron and even Burke helped out quite a bit. Shaw, I mean, all of these just people that I'm extremely grateful to help keep me from getting the lights shut off and shit like that.
Right.
Dude, this has just not been a good month for the
No,
506 as
no,
far as
it's not.
personal lives. It's been shit.
And Cam, to answer your question, right now, easiest is, if you want to get in touch with a local church, they're usually the best bet, is to get in touch with a local church, and you're able, to preferably take water directly to them. That's what we've been doing. It's much easier for me to go pick up cases of water and fill the bed of the pickup than it is for them to take the van over there. And they can fit like 20, 30 cases of water in the van. I can fit 100 in the back of the truck. So that's what I've been doing with my donations. Every month I go to Walmart, Meijer, every single place I can, buy every case of water I can, and load the back of the pickup up, take it to a local church, a neighborhood church that I don't personally go to, but I've known the people from there for 30 years. So I deal with them directly and take the water directly to them, so they don't have to go out and pick it up in the van and load it and all of that shit. A little bit more difficult for me to load it now. I'm probably gonna have to get a couple cronies to fucking help out with that. But if you guys want to come to Michigan and help load up some water, I'll feed you.
Beer me. I'll be there. Fuck it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I could do that too. But yeah, that's basically the two options right now. Is either directly get in contact with a church, and if you need to ship water to them or take it directly to them, or like I said, all of my donations right now go towards helping that out. But again, do not feel obligated in any way to to do that. So yeah, that I think finally wraps it up. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna go cry in a corner for a while. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I definitely appreciate you guys hanging out, as well as Eddie and Loster, and Munson was in here for a little bit. So thank you guys for hanging out. Any last minute thoughts or closing things you want to talk about real quick?
Actually, I saw something that I thought would make you kind of like not scratch your head, but might be interesting. They're starting to finish decommissioning the EA-6B Prowlers in the Navy. They should be done by the fall, I believe. That's what it says.
First, I thought they were already gone.
Nah, they got one or two squadrons left.
No, that thing was around before even my time.
That's fucking long ass time.
That's interesting. Loster, any last minute thoughts for your droves of fans out there?
Yeah, all two of them. I'm really happy that you're okay, Brewer, and I know that we're kind of all cunts to each other, but I was really worried about you, and I'm happy that you're well. From all the possibilities that ran through my head, I'm glad it's just a broken arm and a banged up head, which your head was pretty fucked up before anyway. So
yeah, fuck off.
But that's about it. And just again, if anybody wants to check out my stream, I'll be streaming tonight. Just get my plug in as well as Patty's. But that's about it.
All right, excellent. Well, again, thank you guys for hanging out, and again, remember, once we are done here and it's no longer live, the only access to it via Patreon, where that gets a YouTube link. Otherwise, you have to wait until next week in case you miss any of this. So that's going to be it for tonight, and hopefully I will see you all Friday for the Safety's Off podcast, where again I'll be hanging out in the chat, bullshitting with Patty and those guys, and Shank and Siri and DJ guns. I won't be racing because obviously I can't drive right now. So that's kind of my plan for Friday, is to hang out and laugh at Shank getting all pissed off at probably EA or somebody. So yeah, that's it for tonight,
Wow,
guys.
good thing I didn't ask that question.
Fucking
Yeah.
Star Wars Battlefront.
So that's it, guys, and I will see you all later.
Bye.
Bye.